Hey everybody, this is Daryl, aka Duddy, from the Simply Incredible podcast, here with Juice.
The Mighty Juice.
The
Mighty Juice.
I like that.
Wilhelm.
Hola.
William.
He gets to be the Viking. This is awesome.
Howlermouse. I choked there a little bit on my howling.
Yeah, crack on me. I see how it goes. Yeah.
I crack on everybody. I ain't scared. So we're going to be talking comics, and after that, we may talk more comics. So if anybody comes on today, throw some questions, comments, and all that good stuff, and we will discuss. All right. Who wants to start? Where do we want to start at?
It's your show, man.
You
Finally
take the
someone
gun
said
and
that.
shoot, man, and we'll take the bullet.
I knew Juice wouldn't say that. One of the things I always like to find out, because I love the beginnings of stuff and like how people got into the hobby. And some of us have been in the hobby longer than others. I mean, I think y'all longer than me, quite frankly. But who wants to tell their comic book origin story? No one does.
Oh,
No one does.
I'll tell mine. I mean, I've been in YouTube close to like 10 for like almost 10 years off, off and on and stuff. So I'm like, if there's anybody watching this, are we gonna be like, oh man, he's doing it again? But yeah, if you want, I'll take the bullet. I mean, but basically, it's not so much that I started comics that kind of found me. I had a stepdad. Okay, if you watch That 70s Show and stick in like a little blonde-haired kid with the Dutch boy cut, looks like a mini blonde Ramon. That's me. That's what I was growing up in the 70s. And I had a stepdad and an uncle. I think the stepdad was 21 or 22 by the time I was 4, and the uncle was maybe a year older than that. They had paper bags, like grocery bags full of comics, Conan magazines, monster magazines, Conan books all around, heavy metals, everything like that. So to me, it was all just like having a TV in your house. And I just kind of grew up with it and stuck with it and read and all this stuff. And I've actually got 4 or 5 of the first books that like hooked me, like a Thor annual with Guardians of the Galaxy and all this stuff like that. I mean, I've still got it. It's around 77 is when all that stuff was there. So I just kind of grew up with it. And I bought my first comic. It was Superboy and the Legion 255 when I was 6 with my own money. Because I was much more ambitious as a kid, man. I would be on a big wheel going around the neighborhood collecting bottles, and then I would cross the street, even though I wasn't supposed to this national market little, 5 and dime store, and you could trade in your bottles for cash. I'd make $2 or $3. Then I'm like living right beside of a little store, and I'd be getting peach knee-high candy, some trading cards like Wacky Packs and Superman and Kiss. And then I would get the milk crate and sit there and spend the rest of my money playing pinball. It took me a little while to realize as I got older, the reason I was able to find so many bottles is around the neighborhood, people were leaving them out for me on their porch. I thought I was just fine. I was stuck. I'm like, this is great.
I'm the luckiest kid in the world. Look at all
Right.
these bottles.
Yeah. I mean, it was like 2-3 weeks of struggling for that freaking candy money. Then all of a sudden, bam, just everywhere. I'm like,
That other kid in the neighborhood, he's just flat broke because you got all the bottles.
I had a 12-year-old, 14-year-old kid. They're all big when you're that little. Try to beat me up over some ponies. I don't know if you're like in the Warriors where you see smacking them, pick them out and play. I got chased down by a 12-year-old kid because he wanted those pony bottles for the money. It was a wasteland out there. So pretty cool. I think I was around 9. I considered myself a collector. I looked around. If I had Jack Kirby comics, he scared the crap out of me, especially that OMAC #1 cover with the girl that I didn't realize was a robot. But to go to sleep at night, really, I would have to flip those books over. Kirby scared the crap out of me, and then somewhere along the line, I got it, But so I kind of grew up like on that stuff. Like people grew up on boxing, football, TV. That's what I compare it to. It's always been around and it's stuck. But around 9 years old, I looked around, and that's when I started like trying to keep the stacks. Like I had the first appearance of Moon Knight that I couldn't stand that book because it kept popping up. It was the Stepdads. I sold it about 10 years ago. and it was beat up. But I would like throw that thing across the room, like, God, get out of my stack. Just I'm sick of looking at you, stuff like that.
That's awesome.
But round 9, they had the big Justice League All-Star Squadron crossover with the Justice Society. And all that stuff. And it was like there I had like this thing where like, well, I guess I'm collecting in my mind. It was really like, that's when I knew. And I just did it for years. I caught on pretty quick that people, I come from that time to come, I had a stigma, and I still think they do. I had 2 girls a year apart in high school break up with me because when I went to take a shower, they were gone, and I found my closet open. I literally had my comics in a closet, and they were snooping. The 3rd girl, I wish she found my comics because she found my shoebox full of love letters. And I come out, and she's got my waste bin, and she's burning all the letters in my room.
Will you go with me? Yes, no, maybe. Circle 1.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So, stuff like that. But yeah, comics have always been around. And I feel I'm one of those people I'm really, it's surreal for me when I go see Marvel movies. I'm not like everybody else in a way. I like, everybody's like, oh, wow, it's a Captain America movie. I'm sitting there going, that's Dum Dum Dugan. Dum Dum Dugan's going to fight. He's going to lead the task force to go get Godzilla. I'm like, I can't believe I'm seeing Dum Dum Dugan. It's when they have the smaller characters out there that I'm like, I can't believe I'm seeing this. Yeah. I saw Batrick the Leaper in a Captain America movie. I don't think you know what that means because he was a joke. I liked him, but he was French and wore pink. You know what I mean? Like, you couldn't defend it. All of a sudden, he's in a Captain America movie, and I'm like, am I seeing this?
That is awesome.
Yeah. So that's it in a nutshell, so.
I remember going for bottles and stuff. Me and my brother had to drive all over the city to get enough to fill up one bag.
Yeah, and I'm on a big wheel with a little red basket on the back of it, and then I would carry around a book bag, a green duffel bag like you had in the army. I'm sitting there trying to hold this thing. It was.
Oh, that's too awesome.
I loved it. I mean, it was great. And then you caught lightning bugs at night.
Yeah.
Played lawn darts with some kids. I never got their name. They just did it in the yard. Their parents would let them out of the yard, but you can come in there and play some lawn darts and get some lemonade. I was like, "Where's the cookies?"
Good old days when you were allowed to just go around and no one really cared. It was all cool.
Oh yeah, I walk around getting barrels of slime with worms in them because you kept dropping it and getting dirt, and I'm like, damn it, I need another one. Pop rocks.
Juice or Billy? Who wants to tell their origin story?
Age before beauty, man.
I guess I mean,
so Daryl, you need to go. Daryl, it's your turn.
The most purdy.
That is a curiosity. You know what? I'll go next.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
The man took the bull by the horns.
Yeah, that's right.
Mine is a little more subtle. It's like we grew up. We were pretty poor growing up. Of course, I have a brother that's a year older than me, and the one thing that my parents were always good about was letting us kind of pick something if we went to a store or something like that. And of course, he liked Hot Wheels. I was into like G.I. Joe and Star Wars, and so my stuff was like $2.65. His was like 99 cents. Well, guess who always you need to get something the same price as his. And I would get lucky, you'd find a comic spinner rack. And I can remember specifically picking out like an issue of GI Combat. And like from there, you didn't think about it. Of course, I was probably maybe 6 or 7, and you're just kind of looking at pictures and kind of reading along. And but I remember specifically like in 3rd grade, 3rd, 4th grade, right in that era there, it was 80, 85, 86, stuff like Captain Carrot, and Peter Porker.
I'm about to pull all those out. Keep talking. Yeah. We were there. I was there.
I'm going to name the kid Jesse Robertson. He was a friend, and he had gotten a hold to his dad's stash of comics. And we had just started kind of trading stuff around, and he was selling stuff like you had your milk money and stuff, and he was selling comics for milk money. And I got a Where Monsters Dwell #6 off of him. And I found, to this day, I found a beautiful copy, just like this is one of those books that I just kind of had to have. And, but I got that, and it had like Gratu, this giant ant on the cover. And about that time we got a library card. Well, you can get books and stuff for free. And I discovered the section that had all the Fireside books in it. And there was an Overstreet price guide there. And I checked out Son of Origins and Bring on the Bad Guys and the Overstreet price guide. And the knowledge that all kind of cutting out, there we go, cut out just a little bit. But the knowledge of all of that in tandem, I was probably the most comic smart guy in fourth grade. You might as well be a comic millionaire in that case. But I would sit there, and that was when the Overstreet had like all the ads where they were actually selling things instead of trying to get you to buy the collection.
Did you end up schooling some older guys? Just curious.
Absolutely. Like you take.
They didn't appreciate it, did they? They didn't appreciate it, did they?
Not at all.
Right.
It was a guy in sixth grade. And he was the one that, like, if there was a shark when it came to comics, like if there was a guy that's like, hey, I'm going to pick out your good stuff and trade you like this amethyst, that's that guy. But eventually you start to kind of know this stuff and they can't kind of take advantage of you.
Yeah.
But, like 85, 86, 87, they were great years to kind of get into it, and I can honestly, I think I credit Jim Shooter for a lot of that. As hard as he was to like work for, his ability to put together this like comprehensive universe that left you wanting more and made you want to find out what happened before. I think, and it was a certain point, I think Captain America, like everybody was like into the X-Men. Well, I screwed up and picked up X-Men 205, the Barry Windsor Smith issue. And I was so freaking confused by that. So I gravitated to Captain America because Mike Zeck had just drawn this awesome cover with Captain America with an Uzi. And I picked that up, and that just instantly hit me. And it mentioned, of course, the Ultimatum Ultimatum agent died in the end. Spoiler alert. And
Spoiler.
But it mentioned, the whole Scourge thing, and all of a sudden I had to find out what happened in like 319 and 318, and I started backtracking on Captain America, and that quickly became one of my favorites. And then Captain America Annual 8 with the Wolverine cover that Zach did, that's where I knew I was a collector, because I'm like, you know what? I want to take care of my stuff now, moving forward. And it started with a simple little Brian's Age horror reprint and turned into, here I am in my comic dungeon right now, turned into this madness, which is great. I love it. I wouldn't take anything for it.
Zach. Yeah. I'm ready to run here and get the prints that I bought off of Zach when I met him. He's a real nice guy. I mean, it was
awesome.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, at Big Lick, I bought the black and white, cover reprint that he did for he's got the 321, where Cap's holding the Uzi.
Yeah.
And it's like a reproduction of the original cover pencils. And I bought that, and I was just explaining to him, I'm like, man, this book is probably why I'm standing in front of you right now. Otherwise, this might have been something that just kind of passed. And he's like, so it took Captain America to, holding an Uzi to get you to enjoy comics. And I was like, you know what? I never really thought of that. But he just had this way, like, Zach on a black cover, like his artwork, his use of like lighting and everything, it just like as a wee lad, it just grabbed me, and it just didn't let go.
The first cover he did that really grabbed me was Secret Wars number 10, with the Doctor Doom all beat up. And
hold on,
I'll be right back, man. I'm gonna be rude. I'll be right back. Yes, that's it.
You know what? That's it. I've got to go grab some stuff too.
Yeah.
Everybody go grab your stuff real quick.
Now we know what we're doing. Now we know what we're doing. Yeah. But yeah. Zach on Captain America back then. Sorry, man. I'm butting in. I'm not letting him finish the story. But I'm like, yes. This is somebody else that was there.
Yeah.
This.
Days.
That's right, John. Oh, awesome.
And I got him to sign it there on the bottom. And of course, Beatty was right beside him.
Yep.
And so, yeah. And then, of course, being as we're talking about it, you've got to go back and really, nostalgia lights a fire in you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So naturally, I found a copy of this. And I think this is why I'm the villain lover, because this was the first one that I read. But this one is why I'm just the villain lover now, because I learned about all of these bad guys first, like Dormammu and, you know, Green Goblin. And then it kind of picked up on everything else. And that kind of, I think that's why my focus on collecting now tends to go into the first appearances of bad guys, you know, and I had to find a copy of this, and I really want a copy.
He wants a copy of what? What?
Son of Origins. Once in a while I'll cut out, and I can't figure out why. I noticed it did that in the last one. I've got great Wi-Fi and everything, but Son of Origins I want a copy of.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, Dr. Doom popping up in that Kiss special. If you remember what I'm talking about there, back in that Kiss special with their blood in the ink.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the magazine. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a scene where Ace Frehley, I think it was Ace, looks up like the moon looks extra full and nobody was listening to him. And Dr. Doom lands. His ship looked like the moon. He landed on it. He had all these women throwing flowers on the ground as he walked out of the moon. When you're like 5 years old, you're like, this guy's important. You know,
That's it.
Nice. Great stories. Great stories. Juice?
All
right,
follow it
so-
up now.
The
Yeah, I
mighty
gotta follow it
Douche.
up. The thing is, I'm a bit younger than you guys, so
Rub it in.
y'all are talking about late 80s. Mine's early 90s.
It's not a bad time.
No,
I
it's
enjoy
not. I mean, it is and it isn't.
like,
A
no,
lot of stuff happened in the early 90s, but I think it was 90. Well, actually, it was about 93. My mom would take us to the Lakeside grocery store, Kroger, and we could get groceries. That's what you do at the grocery store, right? So we could go walking down the alley. We could start in the vegetable section. We work our way around the store. When we get towards the frozen section, well, before the frozen section, one of the aisles was the newsstand aisle. So it's where all the magazines were. And on the ends, they had an end cap that had all the comics on.
Is this
And
in
so-
Salem?
Yeah.
I might have seen you as a young lad, but I'll digress.
You did it.
You look familiar. You didn't have a beard back then, did you?
I had a mullet.
So I would be bored, out of my mind, just going crazy. Mom, can you hurry up? Let's go home or do something. And the first time I passed that section, it was like, ooh, something to look at. And I love to draw, and so visually, I'm attracted to comics because it is an art form. And so I would maybe 5 or 6 aisles before that, I would say, can I go to the magazine aisle? She's like, yeah, but you need to keep an eye out on me, because if I pass you and you don't see me, I'm leaving the store, whether you're with me or not.
Terrorism.
Yeah, okay. And so the first comic I ever got was Man of Steel 25.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
Nice.
wow.
And I mean, that just stands out. It's, black background, Superman's face right there in your face. I mean, that thing attracts you really quick. The only thing that would probably attract you more is if it was yellow. But that was my first comic I ever bought. And I tried to get each one that came after that, and it really didn't work because we went once a month, but I didn't always get a book. And so they kind of went a little sporadic. I didn't really know what was going on with the story. But Reign of Superman, that was my bag. That was what I was into starting out. And my memory's not all that great. It jumps around here and there. I remember getting an X-Men #1 at Pizza Hut. They were giving those out when you got pizza.
We had a Batman. They had a Batman book in the 80s, 70s or 80s they'd give you.
Yeah, I got some of the Batman ones. Yeah.
So when I saw Jim Lee's artwork, it blew my mind. Loved that book. I would take that Superman book, all the books I'd gotten up to that point, and I would take tracing paper and just lay it down and just draw whatever interested me the most, trying to figure out how they drew these characters.
That's awesome.
And from there, it was pretty sporadic. I mean, I'm kind of like Bill. My family was poor. I didn't get an allowance. I didn't get money for chores. or anything like that. I think at one point we tried and realized my brother and I were just too freaking lazy and pathetic. We weren't going to make any money.
We need to call this the Poor Boy. We got the Poor Boy podcast, man. That kind of rolls off the tongue.
We come from humble beginnings.
I had an actual hole in my ceiling, and I would get rained on when I was 12, fifth grade. I mean, yeah, I can go on and on, but go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, it wasn't that bad, but okay. You beat me on that one. But yeah, and then my mom, she would take me to, I think at the time it was Dusty Corners bookstore, and then it became Purdue's later on. And I mean, that place was like a magical place for me. It was just like, oh man, comics and books and all these different weird stuff you had in the store. I could never afford to buy anything, so all I got to do was browse. And I think when they ended up in downtown Salem, we'd go to the library, and I get to go across the street, go to the bookstore real fast, and mom would go someplace else, and I just pour over. And at that point, you know, Image is out. I'm seeing Spawn, Pit, Witchblade.
Yeah,
what was the one Jim Lee did? It was
Wildcats.
Wildcat. Which I didn't really care for. At that point, it was like, Jim Lee's okay, but look at this Michael Turner dude. Look at Dale Keown, which I knew who Dale Keown was before because that was one of the books my mom or my parents. It sounds like I don't have two parents. I have two parents. They were in my life. Anyway, I got like Incredible Hulk.
I didn't know my dad. No.
I knew my dad.
He went to the store for cigarettes.
He never came back. And he didn't even smoke. But I think it's 393, the anniversary issue with Hulk on the cover, big. It was like a green and white. Or no, I'm confusing covers now. I think it's where it shows him changing from Bruce Banner into the Hulk. But it's an anniversary issue.
Yeah, it's like the 30th anniversary issue. Yeah.
And it would retell origin, is tell what Peter David was going on about in his story, and that intrigued me. That just sucked me in. I never got to read it until recently. I just started getting the hardcovers for that run, so I've been reading that here lately. But eventually I end up getting a car and have a job so I could pay for gas and insurance. So I'm going to, Star City Comics to look at books and buy books there. Or I actually had a subscription with Purdue's for a while, and then they went under, and that forced me, because I think by then we only had one comic shop after they closed down, I think, and that was B&D. And B&D was like the mecca of comic shops around here. It was almost intimidating, as I didn't know what to expect or what to do or how they dealt with subscriptions or anything. But I mean, they're real nice people, and Terry tells you straight, this is how it works. You can do it this way, or you can do it this way. If you do it this way, you get a discount. If you do it the other way, you don't, but at least you'll get your books. So from there, it ebbs and flows. Sometimes I collect for a while and stop and come back to it a few years later and have to catch up. And then I start meeting you people, and then all hell breaks loose.
What do you mean by you people?
You know what I mean by you people.
Us very handsome devil, men,
Yeah.
Well, he's still not talking about me.
I prefer the term bedeviling.
I go with stud.
I'll tell you, the 90s gets a bad rap, Josh.
They do.
That's what I was going to say.
I think that there was a more exciting time to be collecting comics from like Batman 89 to about 1993. A trip to the comic shop every week was like a major event, and you could just see dollar signs when you were looking at the shelves, like, this is going to be worth money, and this is going to be worth money, and this is
Superman
great.
died and killed it at the same time.
That's it. Well, I mean, the whole thing is most of 99% of the stuff is actually worth nothing more to me now than fantastic memories, which I wouldn't trade for anything in the world. But going to the shop, like I say, summer '89 when Batman dropped, to right around the beginning of Image, every week was just like, and you could make a $20 bill do something.
Yeah.
You know, when you went to the comic shop, man, I mean, you could make a $5 bill, you know,
Well,
it might be something special that comes out that messes everything up.
See, this is when I started. That's around the time I started hustling, because it was around 1990. Comics went from $1 to $1.25, $1.50, $1.75 within a year.
Yeah.
And so that's the only bad thing, you know. I mean, it was, but there was like real comics out. I mean, I'm agreeing with you. It just, I remember that those price hikes. You know, I was just like, you gotta be kidding me, you know.
I remember $1 to $1.25 being just like, okay, that messed the math of everything, because I wanted to be a comic shop owner, and I would I used one of my electives as a senior in high school to I would basically I took a study hall, and that entire study hall consisted of me sitting there with graphing paper. And now we got it back. Look, when I see that swirl, I'm going to stop talking. But sitting there with some graphing paper and mapping out the store that I wanted to open and where my back issues were going to be. And I would plan, you know, my pull and hold list, because I was with the New Quest Comics in Lynchburg. And I would plan my pull and hold list, and that hike from $1 to $1.25, when, you know, well, if we had a cemetery down the road, I could mow that, and, you know, me and my brother, we could split the $35 there. And, you know, if I scrubbed the kitchen floor, my mom would give me X amount of dollars. So I had my pull and hold planned out by the money I anticipated I could earn through the course of a month. And it messed it all up. Because I think at that point, of course, I was a Marvel zombie. And of course, you know, the Batman titles. And I was pretty much getting one of everything Marvel was putting out up to, of course, you know, Spider-Man dropped, and, you know, the X-Men proper title dropped and all of that. And they just started just jacking these titles out every week. So you had to get a little more choosy then, you know. I dropped G.I. Joe, you know, which had been kind of a stalwart in my collecting arsenal for such a long time. But, you know, superheroes were just kind of where it was at.
There's things I really get into when you can see like synchronicity of stuff. Like Juice was up there talking about, he was an art guy, and he's popping up right when the Image hits, when all the art guys took off.
Yep.
You know, and they're all in one real spot. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's just, that's amazing. It's no wonder he got hooked and stuff. But when you were talking about the 90s get a bad rap, I mean, I was so glad to hear you say that, because the problem with the 90s is that there was a point where there were 800 comics a month coming out. It took maybe 10 years, at least from my point of view, to where the cream rose to the top. We got Hellboy and Starman and Bone. I mean, they got their classics, even though it's not like it didn't break new ground, in my opinion, like Watchmen and Dark Knight. But, you know,
Right.
It still had its stuff. I mean, when people put down the 90s, I think some people are either parroting or they were there and all their books didn't buy them a house like they thought it was going to happen when they saw it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, they can't believe the death of Superman isn't $1 million book.
I know, right?
I was actually working in a comic book shop when that came out, and I was just looking at the line. It's a Subway now. The comic book shop was probably big as this room I'm in, but I was working there and working at Hardee's too at the same time. And the line was going out the door, and it was doctors from across the street coming out of Clinch Valley Hospital, some lawyers I didn't even know we had in Richlands, and just all these people. And I'm just sitting here like, this is never going to be worth anything, biting my lip. I was too honest back then. Back then, I was very honest. I didn't want to rip people off. But I'm sitting here like, not my store, not my money, you know.
Yeah.
I remember the urgency. It felt like to get that Superman, especially the black bag version.
Yeah.
The urgency. But then once you got it, you were just like, okay. Yeah. And
yeah, I call that the Dan Jurgens effect.
It might be, you know. I tell you, like, I guess with me, probably, it's like, I think that was the only time. What was the movie line, you know? The only time you ever excited people is when you died. You know, and that's kind of like how I feel about Superman. I feel like the only time we ever got excited was when he died. You know, other than that, you know, and
I got excited after he died.
Yeah, because you were mentioning, you know, like the reign of
they brought those, you know, they brought Superboy in, Steel, Eradicator, Cyborg Superman, all those guys. They really interested me. I loved their visual appearance. I want to know who they were. That's what drew me into that book.
You got to remember, William, in my opinion, in the 80s, we wanted to be at 1961 when Fantastic Four came out. You know, and that's why I got burned on the new universe. He comes into comics, man, and it's like Superman's blown up, you know,
Yeah.
and all this new stuff's coming in, and he gets a Superboy, and he's good. I mean, I totally get it, man. I mean, I think it's a time to get into comics. That was a good time. I mean, we're still talking about that storyline 25 years later, even though we can make fun of it. You know what I mean? But I honestly didn't know what they were doing. I mean, first I was like, they're bringing Superman back. Then they did just enough to where I was like, what are they doing? I didn't see them. The way they went with it wasn't predictable is what I'm trying to get at. You know, they did a good, I think they did just enough of a swerve to keep it interesting.
Did you ever hear the story about that? The reason they did it?
Yeah, it was a joke.
Yeah, it was like the comic book writers of each one were like, let's do
What do we do now?
How about we just kill him? All right, let's do that.
Yeah. They said somebody always said that as a joke at those meetings, but that one day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing they dropped the ball on in the 90s was hurrying up and marrying Superman because he was going on Lois and Clark. They were getting married. That really jarred the comics if you didn't know it.
I love that show, by the way.
I have a better appreciation for it than I did after these CW shows over the last 2-3 years. And I'm not going to bash him. People like him and stuff. But if you watch Stargirl and Doom Patrol, that's the way you do it. You know, so, you know, Stargirl was amazing, but I don't want to. I'm going on a tangent. Sorry. You guys are pumping me up. Old Joe Juice is taking me back to the 90s, and old Will's like, he was there with me in my Vietnam.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, while we're on the tangent, you mentioned Doom Patrol. Have you watched Doom Patrol?
Yeah, I've got it on DVD. It's awesome. They got the Morrison stuff. They pulled from the 60s a little bit. They're bringing in the villain. I mean, it's great. It's fantastic.
Okay. I've been wanting to watch it, but I just like, I don't know if I can pull the trigger on it. I got Swampthing.
I really liked it.
It's awesome. It's not like the CW shows.
Oh yeah,
if you talk about that stuff, Swamp Thing, I thought was amazing, and then they're like, "Yeah, we're not doing any more of that."
I haven't watched it yet, but what I heard was there wasn't enough Swamp Thing. But Daryl,
that's true.
I know it's your show. I want to swing back around to this, but we haven't heard your origin story.
Well, I picked up a comic one time. I read it and I liked it.
Pictures pretty.
No, actually. Actually, for me, it started with Lou Ferrigno.
Lou Ferrigno.
When he was the Hulk back in the day, I was just like, "This is awesome! What is this?" And then I would see the old reruns of the Batman '66, the TV show. And I was like, "This is awesome!" When you're an 8-year-old kid, this is awesome. Mm-hmm. Seeing Batman, Robin on there, I thought it was great.
We didn't stand a chance. If you're around my age, we had Superman in the theater, and it was actually, I don't think they really popped a superhero movie with that first 45 minutes. I don't think they, anyway, then you had Lou Ferrigno, you had Wonder Woman, who put my first chest hair on my chest when I was 5.
My 4th grade teacher looked just like her. It was tough on
Howlermouse needs to turn his audio and video off for at least 5 minutes. We'll be back.
But then,
what was your 4th grade teacher's name?
Wow, we always called her Wonder Woman. To be honest with you, I'm not joking. Somebody gave her like this little acrylic thing that actually said, "I am Wonder Woman."
I would have been like, "Hey, could you spin around for me a couple times? You know, just hold your arms out like
straight up and cheesy as possible."
I'm trying to figure out why I'm so angry at you right now. I don't know what's going on with me. Wait,
if it makes you feel any better, none of my teachers resembled anybody mildly attractive at all. So,
so then I was in the hospital one time. I've been in the hospital a million times, but I was probably 9, 10 years old, and you're on the kids ward, and they had a room where you could go in. All the kids could do finger painting, drawing, whatever, coloring books. But I saw in this little closet, this sliding door closet, there was a box of comics down there, and I'm like, man, I don't know if there's like Batman and the Hulk and stuff. So I asked if I could read one. She said, "Sure, go ahead." And I read them, and every day I would get some. And that's back in the day when you went in the hospital, you didn't leave until you were fixed.
Yeah. You were there for 5 days to 2 weeks.
You're close enough, get out.
Yeah.
So one day, the lady was like, "You want You want to just take the books in your room with you and read them all day? And I'm like, yeah. I remember I had
Can I
Batman.
have some milk and cookies too?
She's like, "Will you just grab the box, man?"
Yellow.
You are driving me crazy, kid. Just take the box. Go back to your room.
I'm trying to marry a doctor.
Probably what
He
happened.
gets in his room. He hears the door close and locks.
And stay out.
Man, now have some more.
Take that, the D.
So I mean, I remember it was Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Spider-Man, Captain America books. And ever since, those have been my core group ever since. And I didn't start reading X-Men until just a few years ago. And I bought the whole run. Finally, I got the end of the Dark Phoenix saga, that Chris Claremont. And I was like, holy cow, no wonder everybody talks about this.
Yeah.
It's a freaking awesome run. And then I had that long stretch where I didn't do anything for a while with books. Came to the 90s. Juice. And Batman.
I'm the 90s.
Series and the X-Men comics or cartoon. Those guys.
I tell you what, Fox just nailed it on the cartoons in the 90s, man.
Mhm.
Yeah, they did.
Gosh, man.
Yeah, and ever since, I have those times where I collect a lot, then I don't collect a lot, then I collect a lot, but yeah, it's the stuff I get now so much, the memories from the past, and I absolutely love it. But and kind of like Juice again, I love art, and so many of the covers and stuff I see, I know a lot of people are like, you don't buy it for the cover, but to me, that is a piece of art. Then you open up, you got more art and more art and more art.
There's a reason the cover is so pretty. They want you to buy it.
This is not a pretty cover, but it's a doggone great story.
Yeah.
That goes off onto a different tangent. I guess we could get into. It's like, I think Howler can definitely agree with me. It's like, for some reason, I'll refer to them as our covers. The covers we had growing up. They were like miniature stories in and of themselves. They were a part of the sequential art storytelling method. And modern covers to me is great. I'm not saying they're bad artists, because we do have some fantastic, Clayton Crane, there's some beautiful work being done, but now I feel like the cover is just a pinup. It's almost like, so many people, I don't think, because anything that gets anybody to buy a comic, I'm all about. We got to keep this medium alive somehow. As much as the big two are trying to kill it right now, it seems we've got to do something to keep people interested. I was going through the old Defenders comics the other day, and every single cover I came across made me smile. And I go to a comic shop now and I look at the wall of new books, and it's just like nothing grabs me like that old stuff did. As nice as I can say certain things look. And, Alex Ross is another person. Like, you see an Alex Ross cover, you stop and your jaw kind of drops a little bit. But
a cover's supposed to be a movie poster and a trailer all on its own for what's going on in the book. It doesn't have to tie in directly. But that's part of the magic of it, is the cover tying into a little bit of the story. You know what I mean?
Right.
That is an aspect that has died now.
Yeah. And there's comics in the past you go back. I mean, a lot of Charlton stuff were just covers like what you're talking about. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I mean, I've had this talk many times over the years and stuff, and there's a lot of people who collect just for the covers. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but I mean, we're having the discussion stuff. But I compare it to you're doing trading cards is what you're doing. Big 8x11 trading cards is what you're really collecting. You're not really collecting the comics, in my opinion. I wish there was another word for it and stuff. But with an Alex Ross cover, man, I mean, what I have him on like Facebook and Instagram and stuff. I'm not into social media, but I keep up with the artwork that way. And I've got Alex Ross drawing Zimnu the Titan, painting them. I can't be happier. I would get those just for the cover, because Alex Ross is drawing my favorite monster from a kid. You know what I mean? So yeah, I see how it can kind of draw people in, but there's definitely a magic lost with not having the cover tie in with that story. I mean, it really, you know, I don't know.
I'll tell you,
it builds a tension, kind of gets you expecting something, you know.
I think for me nowadays, the one thing I'm seeing a lot, it's not like old school drawing. Everything now is computer generated.
Yeah.
And to me, I think it's a big difference in the feeling of the cover.
Yeah.
It's the colorization that gets me.
Mm-hmm.
Like you take a Marvel True Believers reprint, like some of the old Kirby stuff, or Barry Windsor-Smith's Conan 1. I picked up a True Believers, like cool now. I don't have to open my Conan 1 again. And I'm looking, and it's like the colors are just so rich, and they just don't suit like the art style. You need that little color dot type stuff there. And I just put the True Believers down, and I'm going to continue to when I want to read. Conan,
I get what you're saying. Yeah, you're talking about the dollar reprints Marvel's been putting.
Yeah,
yeah, okay, I know what you're saying.
There's look at the old Kirby stuff. It's jacked up in the coloring process, in my opinion.
No, it does. Yeah, Kirby. The artist is what's supposed to stand out with some of that stuff. There's the Miracle Man stuff that Marvel put out with the recoloring. I didn't think that worked, but I could sit there and talk about the Swampthing Omnibus that's finally come out. My buddy showed it to me, where they recolored Veitch and Bicet and Total Bomb and all that stuff. It worked well with them because they were pushing. They did heavy blacks, whites, textures, and everything like that. It can work, but somebody's got to be more objective on what they should do it with. Does that make sense?
Are you talking about the Absolute Swamp Thing?
Yeah, is that what it is? Yeah.
I guess that's the new one. I didn't know they recolored that.
It's all recolored. There's a few pages that didn't work, I thought, but overall, it's a better product because when those books were coming out, you could tell the 4 palette colors and stuff just weren't doing it justice when it was coming out back in the day.
Yeah, I've been reading Saga of Swamp Thing on my Kindle, and I'm looking at it as like these colors don't do the artwork justice at all. Right. It just doesn't seem to fit. It looks spotty. It's just kind of we just threw it on there and sent it to print. I mean, it is Swamp Thing. They don't really treat Swamp Thing with much reverence or love. I mean, look, they only had one season of it on DC Universe, so that should tell you something right there.
They didn't get the tax breaks they were hoping they would get to.
North Carolina,
But I'll have to check that one out because I didn't realize they recolored it.
I like to say my buddy showed it to me, but going back to what William was saying, like, recoloring a Kirby from the 70s with today's standards doesn't work, man. I kind of compare it to Neil Young and Bob Dylan making records when they were actually putting them on vinyl. They knew the pops and clicks were going to be on that vinyl, so that's how they drew. You know what I mean? Right. I mean, that's how they made a song to where the pops and clicks was in the back of their mind while they were doing it. Kirby was the same way. He'd start on that top corner, just slide it on down. Now color it. Let's get another one out.
It's just, I don't know, man. Digital coloring, I think it has a place, but I think me personally, obviously I speak for not everybody, but God, me personally, I would love it if we could just get back to the old, newsprint Marvels, newsprint DCs, even with the 4-color palette, like you said, and just kind of get back to that, and I don't know. I think it was Spawn. What did they? Digital Chameleon when Spawn came out. That was the first people that really kind of started bringing in this digital coloring to the forefront.
There was a dude named Steve Olaf, and he's still around. I got to look up to see how old he is. Now he could do it. I mean, he could handle it. He put a little bit of soul in there. But that Digital Chameleon company you're talking about,
right? I
think that's when it kind of got soulless. I don't mean to be mean. It's like they were more into the technology than serving the story. What can we do with all this? You know what I mean? It's like a Pixar movie with no heart in their story. They never should have made it,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
you mentioned Pixar, and I just I love so many Pixar movies. They're so good.
Oh yeah.
They do. They make me cry.
Yeah, Pixar had to win me over. I was the guy that, like, you know, there's so much more to do. I mean, I'm a Bakshi guy. I grew up on Bakshi and Lord of the Rings, heavy metal. I mean, I watched that stuff, but I still got it. I got the bootleg VHS that we have we made like in 1985 on 2 VCRs. That's what my stepdad did. I still got that thing. I can't throw it away. It's got heavy metal, Flight of the Dragons, Wizards, Lord of the Rings, and maybe one more. It was a 10-hour tape, by God. But Pixar had to win me over. Everybody was bringing in the McDonald's toys. It's 1995. I'm still getting mad because Disney put some computer animation in their things. I mean, I was upset. I mean, you know, I was a young man in my 20s and I wasn't ready for a change. I go see Pixar 5 minutes into it when they brought out the Green Army Man. I'm like, damn it, this is good. Damn it. How dare they make this awesome, you know?
I just think it's hysterical that you're talking like heavy metal. And I just remember heavy metal, like, when I was young, being the one magazine you would try to sneak peeks at, you know, when your parents weren't around.
No,
You know,
it was
you
all
were like,
it was all out. They were in there smoking dope. I mean, they're like, this is weird, but I can't stop looking at it. You know, I still got them. I still have them. I mean, I just kind of, when I moved out, I carried them around. I took it, you know. I'm like, I'm the one that's been carrying this and reading it. It's yours no more. You know, my first X-Men I read was X-Men #3 with the Blob, and I thought it was amazing, you know. And this is when the Dark Phoenix saga was going on. I mean, that was jarring as a kid, not understanding how comics worked over, you know what I mean? Like, God, there's a lot of changes in this, you know. I'm reading a book from 1963 and it's 1980, you know.
yeah.
It's a little different there, just a little.
But you were talking about being in the hospital, and you were talking about Captain Carrot. I met Scott Shaw a couple years ago, and let me tell you what Scott Shaw does when you. Sorry, guys, everybody got quiet. Did I jump in there wrong? So,
no.
Okay, but Scott Shaw, let me tell you what he does. I had my copy of Captain Carrot and my buddies up in Baltimore, right? And we're at Heroes Con, and I hand him to him. And that guy, what he does is he sucks you in. He knows, and Scott Shaw used to hang out with Jack Kirby. He told me the story, you know. But what he does is he holds your book hostage, and he'll tell you a story. And then he'll ask you a question, and he goes around asking people, how'd you get into comics? And if you don't give him the hospital answer, he'll tell you how he got into comics. And then he'll tell you everybody that he's talked to where they were in the hospital. He's convinced that everybody really got into comics because they were little kids stuck in the hospital. And meanwhile, he's doing this with your book, you know.
Winner.
I mean, that's better than what Claremont does. He sits down and reads your book because he forgot he wrote it.
Really? I've never met him. I have a buddy that almost ran him over when they were leaving the con. And after they almost ran him over at a crosswalk, they rode around, found a Burger King, and there he was eating a Whopper. And they were like acting like thinking he was going to recognize him, you know.
Nice.
Yeah, I was in line getting his autograph at Heroes last year, and one of my friends was like 2 people in front of me. So he hands him the book, and Claremont literally sat there and read the whole thing. I was like, is he really reading that book? And he was like, this is a really good book. And then he signed it. I was like, you wrote the book. You literally wrote the book.
Oh, man.
Golden to Renee Winstetter. Renee Winstetter was an editor at Marvel, and she's got a reputation because she chased a guy all the way to China when he was making a movie, and she got stuck in China. The whole story there. But she represents Mike Golden. And at these cons, like, Mike Golden already had the reputation of don't talk about his comics. Like, he was supposed to be a real jerk, you know, some stuff he did on a commission piece. Well, I hit it off with him. I don't know what exactly I did, but I walked up ready to like not take crap from him. I had enough of Neil Adams, you know, at the previous con. So I walked up here like, if he's nice to me, I'll be nice to him. You know, it's just sign my book. You know, I was going to be cool about it. Long story short, he was the one guy that I thought was going to ask me out for a beer. He sat there and talked my head off. We had a good conversation. Then I was ready to move on with the con. I got, you know, there's things to do. And every time he saw me, he would like bring me over. And I swear I thought he was going to say, let's go get a beer or something later. Then all of a sudden he was having this real nice talk and we were getting into it. He'd already weighed me over 2 more times. So I'm sitting there and I'm talking to him. And then all of a sudden he does this number in mid-sentence, leaves me hanging there. Renee Winstetter comes from behind him. She's like, are you going to buy something? Did you pay him to sign those? Mike, is he bothering you? threw me under the bus because he was afraid to tell her that I'm talking to my buddy here. Act like he's been working the whole time, and I'm sitting there bothering him. You know,
Michael Golden. I got my GI Joe yearbook signed by him.
Number 3.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I had to get that signed.
Everybody should have that. If you had GI Joe toys, he drew them exactly how they look.
Yeah, it's like I remember like every year a yearbook came out, and then of course it was the must have. You didn't quite equate it with an annual, but it was definitely an annual.
Mm-hmm.
I gave a buddy of mine, Devil's Due did like the artist editions.
Yeah.
Or IDW did those where like every page was like a page of the artwork, and it was the Michael Golden yearbook. Well, my buddy, I gave that to him for Christmas. Well, he took it to Michael Golden to have it signed, and Golden, and maybe I get it a little bit, but he flat out refused to sign it because he wasn't paid anything for IDW's reproduction of that issue.
Yeah.
He slid it back across to him and said, "You know what? I'm not going to sign this." And I felt bad for my buddy, because it's like he is the GI Joe. He's the crazy cat lady of GI Joe collectors. Period. It's like if there's something, I think the latest round of variants has probably broken him. I think he said he's done. But I mean, he's the guy that wants one of everything that's printed GI Joe all the way back. And with that, he just kind of took his book and walked away from Golden, and it was almost kind of like a crushing experience to him.
Yeah.
And it's like I kind of understand Golden, but you know what? Here's a guy that's showing appreciation for you and your artwork, period. And it's not like there's a CGC rep there with him to for him to flop around and make more money on it. He just wanted the cover page signed. And he just flat out refused to do it. And he was not nice at all about how he refused to sign it either.
Wow. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why it surprised me when it was. I caught him in a moment. I don't know, in a good moment. Daryl, let me make a phone call so I can stick around the podcast. If that's all right.
It's been almost an hour. I know you and Josh were talking about having to take off. Do you want to come back?
I'm just going to turn my cam and mic off. I'll be back in a minute. That's all right.
All right, cool.
So, Juice, if you're gone when I get back, it was nice meeting you. But nice I watched the Mighty Boosh. I watched the Mighty Boosh, and I'm like, Mighty Juice. I mean, I'll remember your name. Back in a minute, guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not even his name,
but it's all good.
It's actually a nickname.
I love it.
I think it's definitely
Juice.
That is his name now.
It is now, yes.
Yeah, that's a nickname that a group of we had an art group here locally in BC Brant. She was putting my phone number into her phone, and she wrote my name down into her phone, and she put in extra O's. She's like, "Juice, what's Juice?" And then they just started calling me Juice. And I have a lot of nicknames. One of them is I can't say on this podcast because my children are watching in the other room. Hi, kids.
I said it out loud.
Oh!
Check this out. I need to know what this is.
It's a book.
I'm not sure.
It's a camera. It's a chicken. Oh, it is a comic book.
That's Batman.
Yeah?
What printing is this?
Can I see the top corner? I think that one of the Batman Day ones when they come back out.
It says special edition.
Yeah.
Alicia is on the rear. I want to say this is like a Walmart issue.
I was thinking maybe, yeah.
It's not in the best of shape. But dude, I don't think I've ever seen one of these before.
I've seen one of those. I don't remember where, but I've seen one.
If anybody watching, I'm not sure who all's watching. If anybody can tell me anything about that at all, I think it'd be fantastic.
Did it still have the was it 608?
Yeah, it's a 608.
But I mean, did it actually have that number on it, or did it have something else?
It's got special edition. It doesn't have 608. Well, it's 608 up here by the DC Bullet.
Mm-hmm.
But then I did manage to get these.
Nice.
There's a first printing. a third printing,
Third printing.
and a fourth printing.
Did you get those today?
Yeah.
Where?
I got this.
Tema. Yeah, I'll tell you what. I tell you what, J. Scott Campbell, for me, he is either on or I do not like his work at all.
I liked it when
It's
back
like
in the day.
Terry and Rachel Dotson, same thing. It's either a cover I absolutely love or I absolutely don't like. It's never like that. That's not bad, or it's just two far sides of it.
I think back in the day when I don't know, would actually draw maybe an entire comic book, and now he's just got
J. Scott Campbell.
Yeah, now because
Like the Gen 13 stuff. Yeah.
You could actually. It's funny. You look at I want the J. Scott Campbell cover of this. It's like I remember when he would do entire comics, and
Well, you can't front the guy for figuring out a way to make money.
Yeah,
I mean, he makes a ton of money just doing one simple pinup pose cover, and it's like there's no background. It's just her on the cover, whoever her might be.
Yeah,
that dude gets thousands of dollars for that cover. He's golden.
Look at Greg
I
Horn.
would do it.
Greg Horn.
Adam Hughes does that,
covers, and then he sells a ton of prints of those covers.
Yeah.
I'm not faulting or throwing shade, but I think that's just where the state of modern comics are.
It's like for that expression.
The talent isn't doing work anymore. The talent is like, here's my cover, pay me.
Yeah,
and I get it. I would probably do the same thing. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
but it's like, Jim Lee used to draw entire books.
Josh, why don't you do it?
I do.
Just become a cover artist.
Oh,
yeah.
Because I'm not.
Don't write the entire book. Color. What's the matter with you?
Well, here's the thing. It's cyclical. Like they all start out working on books and doing pages. And most of them do really long runs. And at a certain point in their career, they're famous. And then they get the cover gig. Like Alex Ross has a cover gig. Like the Marvel book that's out now, he does the covers for, and I think he's writing it. But someone else is drawing the interiors. He's reached that upper echelon or elite status where he's making money on covers and someone else is doing all the inside work. And eventually those people that are doing the interiors, they're going to get to that point where they're well known, they have a name, and then they'll start doing covers. And it just runs a cycle with each new talent.
That is.
But new talent. Who is that?
Read the words backwards on that.
It's the first Alex Ross work.
Yeah, the red letters, if you read them backwards, it says now comics sucks.
Yeah, right. I remember looking at that. I remember saying, I never knew that, and somebody said that, and I was like, "What? That's ridiculous."
I saw it when I bought it off the rack, and I'm like, "Am I reading that?"
You look
the question
better than I.
I thought it was my imagination until he admitted it.
The question I posed to them, I picked up a copy of it today, and I'm familiar with a lot of printings to this, even like the RRP. Is this like a special Walmart thing or something?
It might be. There's a website called comicbookrealm.com. Put in Batman, find that series, and it'll have like cover A, B, C, D, and it'll tell you what it is.
Is it in TLZ?
Comic Book Realm.
Just now pulled it out.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll have the same, Batman, what is that, 4, I don't know, they're 5.
608.
608.
Issue.
Yeah. It'll say, Batman 608, and then it'll have like cover A, cover B, cover D. And if you click on it, they'll have a little blurb on it about what it is.
Was awesome, by the way.
Huh?
That run right there, the 608 run, that was a great run.
Yeah, yeah.
It was definitely a good jumping on point for bad guys.
It was definitely a shot in the arm, man. Jeff Loeb can't end a series, man, but he can keep you interested all the way through it, man. Yeah.
It says on here it's a special edition Mattel cover. Maybe it was in with an action figure or something. Kind of like
that's kind of what it sounded like right now as a toy.
Yeah, but Mattel didn't put out those action figures. It was like NECA or something.
I'm telling you what that says. Don't be like murdering the messenger.
Hey, I love. There's two. I don't know, connoisseurs I love. Right, the toy guys that know all the toy companies. and the horror guys who even know who the sound effects guy was. In the you're up there talking these. Excuse me, Mattel did not do that. You go to Hasbro. I'm like, yeah.
That's it.
Toy Biz sucks. That's all I know.
I might be wrong on that.
Marvel figures are awesome.
He's thinking Mattel because of the He-Man mini comics. So
I'm just reading.
Those I actually want. I need a set.
I found a stack of those He-Man comics for $1 a piece about 2 years ago.
I'll give you $1 for them.
I love it, dude.
That's actually a set I've been looking for too.
I want He-Man toys just for the freaking box art. That box art alone. Oh, he's got the mask too.
Yeah, and then I have the Sectars.
If Ricky were here right now, he'd be begging for those masks right now.
Yeah, but that's all He-Man and a couple of masks. I couldn't believe it. I got the Bruce Timm one too.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
I'm glad I ditched some stuff for this. That was awesome to come back to.
Well, these were the two I was mentioning Ryan Lim. I pulled these out. These were the two little X-Mutants graphic novels I think I found today. I don't know whether they collect anything or if it's an actual standalone story. But I love me some Ryan Lim. I don't know what it is about him, but and here's the other one.
You're going to make me go back? Yeah, you're going to make me go back and look at X-Mutants to see who that John Byrne wannabe artist was on them. I mean, that's the only reason I remember him.
That's it.
Well, I think
he was very toothy. That's the other thing about Ryan Lim is like his teeth were very, especially on the Captain Americas. But I really liked it. I thought it was really cool.
I can't believe I'm going blank on this because, I've mentioned it many times. Or there's a secret crossover, and I think it was with the X-Mutants with the Teen Titans. Marv Wolfman did an issue with these recombatants. I think it's what they were called. And Steve Rude did the art, and it was a secret crossover. You read his story, and the recombatants were, I think they were the X-Mutants. And then when you read the X-Mutants issue, they had these Teen Titan kind of vague, characters. You knew who Starfire was, you knew who Beast Boy was, and it was the same story from 2 points of view, and nobody knew about it when they did it.
Very interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah. I swear I don't think it was the X-Mutants though, man. I'm DNA agents. It's Mark Evan there. Yeah. Sorry. This is what I do. Sorry.
Yeah. I tell you mentioned Mark Evan here, and it's like last year I think meeting Sergio Aragones was like one of the greatest moments of my life. Mr. Guru the Wanderer. I didn't go because they said they weren't coming and they worked the flight out. And I was dying, but I ended up getting engaged on a canoe at a park around here that weekend. And I know I did the right thing, but it was Sergio, man. It's like, wow. But you know what? I mean, I got him to sign it's one of the few comics that I still have from, but it was a Gru 1. And I told him, I was like, man, you don't know how much milk money I had to give up to get this comic, because it was, and mine was beat up, and of course, and just talking to him and all of that. I tell you, I think that's like one of the saddest things right now is a lot of my guys are either retiring and just stepping away from it all, or unfortunately passing away.
Yep.
And
dude, when Alex Toth died, I didn't say a word. I was at work. We shared offices back then. And I read the news while I was at work at 10 in the morning. Not only did he died at his drawing board. And that got me.
Wow.
I think, so I'm sitting there. I didn't say anything. And my coworkers looked at me about an hour or two later, and they were like, "Are you okay, man?" But I mean, apparently it was all over me. I'm sitting there.
Yeah. Well, Bernie Wrights and Lynn Wein, all of these people, I think I take for granted, I call it the New Mutants 98 effect, where you see a copy of New Mutants, it's like, I'll be damned if I'm paying $300 for this, because it to me, it's still as fresh as when you bought it, but you realize, crap, this book is like 30 years old now.
William, you're hitting all the right nerds here. I've got a story, and I'm like, shut up, Tim. Shut up,
No, by all means. But, that's what I'm not realizing about these artists. Like, it was another one that passed away very recently. And I'm like, God, but I've got to realize some of these people are, in their 70s and 80s now.
Yeah.
And
when I met
horrible that I missed so many chances.
There's been the New Mutants 98 thing kills me because in reality, it's an awful comic. It really is. Okay. It's a bad comic. My brother would come down. He lived with we had a different dad. So the stepdad was his real dad, but he lived with his grandparents. He would come down. He would get 4 or 5 books. I would get 4 or 5 books. We would trade off reading them. We both ended up buying that New Mutants 98 by accident, and we were both sitting there like holding them, reading them like, this is awful. We were like, this is so bad. So when this Deadpool Mania hit, I think it's great. I mean, don't get me wrong, but you never would have suspected that. I was like, how did this happen with this guy? But
I was finding so many Deadpool books like 3-4 years before the movies. I mean, you could find them in common bins all day long.
Oh yeah,
and now good luck.
Well, I've had that set that Ed McGuinness and Joe Kelly. Was it Joe Kelly? Am I remembering right? I've had that set twice. I have found the complete set of that series twice at 2 different flea markets. Sold them on eBay because I was reading them, and I'm like, this is just Ambush Bug. When I was reading them, I felt like I was reading Ambush Bug. Yeah, a thinly veiled Ambush Bug. If don't get me wrong, it wasn't. I was reading this, and I'm like, I've seen this before.
There's only one Keith Giffen, so I mean it's
Keith Giffen is the only guy. I've been starstruck twice, and I had one guy I wanted to hang out with. Keith Giffen was that guy I wanted to hang out with.
I got him to sign my Justice League Antarctica.
Yeah,
because that book, I love it for some reason.
Okay, well, I walked up to Keith Giffen, and I knew I had a lot of stuff, so I'm going through trying to find out what he is. Jose Garcia Lopez was there the same weekend, and that's the guy I was starstruck with. Now, before I went and saw Keith, I saw Jose. He signed a bunch of my stuff, my Atari Force #1, my Hercules Unbound. I mean, I went back to the stuff, So he sat there and he lets me tell him he's such a nice guy. He's sitting there and he's listening to me. And the more I'm talking and the more he's not saying anything, the more I'm just gushing about him. Like, what you done with the kid? I mean, I was feeling a little bit foolish, but I'm like, gosh, go for it.
Yeah.
He's old. He might die. Do it now, I'm doing it. And he's great. And he shakes the hand. He takes the picture with me. I've got my books. And I'm like, man, that was great. That was awesome.
And little did you know.
What you about to say? Go ahead. I know what you're.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I found out he can barely speak English.
This gringo won't shut up, man.
Yes. Yo, yes.
Oh, Lord. He did all
He's like,
style
what did
guys
you
for DC, didn't he? Like Jose Garcia Lopez. He was like the guy that kind of defined the look for DC.
I got a page from DC Comics Presents #4 that one of my buddies on YouTube sent me because I praised him so much over the years. His Dead Man stuff, his Twilight series. He's the guy that I can sit here and talk. He replaced George Perez on the new Teen Titans, and he was the only man that could have done it because George took off to do a DC, Crisis. I mean, he's just one of those guys that once you find out about him, you're going to be sucked in.
Prince. Love me some Prince.
Yeah, but after that, But after that, I met Keith, right? And when I walked up to Keith, I just, I'm like, kind of like, I've met, I met the man. I met Garcia Lopez, right? So now I'm just sort of like, I don't care how I talk to people, like I don't have to be like anybody else. So I woke up to Keith and I'm joking around with him. First thing out of my mouth as I look at him, I'm like, you know what? I hold him my books. I'm like, you caused me a lot of problems. And he went, that's what I do. He rolled right with me. And we were talking about the Justice League, and I'm like, damn, I can hang out with this guy. I mean, like, seriously. I mean, like, he could be one of us. But he sat there and he said him and DeMontes were talking about the Justice League, and I asked him about the Justice League Europe book where they were in French class, and the teacher was making them say bubble gum on their nose, that they were chewing bubble gum. He said that book, and the Justice League book and the Justice League Antarctica book, I named the 3 books while I was talking to him that he said those were the epitome of what the Justice League was, what they were trying to do. So I got points with them,
I fell in love with Nort during Justice League Antarctica. You know, I mean, like, I guess, you know, you could tell the way the series was going to go, starting with, you know, Justice League 1, you know, the whole thing with Batman and Guy Gardner, and you know, everything there, you could tell like his ability, both subtle humor and actual humor and serious storytelling. I mean, he's just incredible. You know, meeting him was definitely a highlight that year.
I'm thinking about the Justice League books, and I'm holding back and stuff, man. But I mean, we're talking about penguins with teeth. You know?
Yeah.
We're talking about Guy Gardner taking Ice, like right out of Taxi Driver, taking her to a porn for their first date in the book. You know, I mean,
I haven't read these, and now I got to find them. These sound great.
Dude, every time somebody's dollar box surfing with me, and I come across a Justice League Antarctica, the annual, I will pull it out and put it in their pile, going, "You need this."
Well, my magic story with that is that every now and then I'll buy some books for $1 or something. And I'll get home and I'll find that they're signed. I didn't have that first Adam Hughes' first work was in Justice League, right? And I couldn't find that book. Somehow, for some reason, by the time the book got into the 30s, I don't know if they stopped ordering them or if they took off. I mean, it was the 80s, you know, didn't have the internet, you know. But all of a sudden, it was like I've been collecting this book every month. It's my thing, and I'm like, where's it at? So I find the Adam Hughes book in the 90s, and I get home and I open it, and on the first page, he's signed it.
Nice.
Yeah. I found a Todd McFarlane. I found a Spawn #1. I found 2 issues of it. I already had it, but I kind of looked at it and I had to confirm they are the signatures. For $1 a piece, I found a Todd McFarlane signed Spawn and a Al Williamson signed Spawn from where he took Al Williamson, the real dude, and went on tour. I got him for $1. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for my Kirby find. You know, one day I just want to find a Kirby book and open it.
Yeah, I was like, be sure you open up because it's gonna be on the first page.
Yeah, make sure it's like right there in the indicia. You know, Kirby, Jack Kirby. Hopefully, it's not one Rosalind signed.
Well, the greatest find I found is I just found a reader copy of the X-Men Titans, and I had the thing for 2 years and never got around to reading it. Right, there's a couple times I actually kind of threw it across the room. You know, just kind of put it in a pile over there. I finally get around to reading it. It's signed inside by Claremont, Simonson, and Terry Austin.
Nice.
And I'm sitting here like thinking of all the stuff I did to this thing because it's a little bit of a beat up copy and I'll, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. So, I know, I've got, the same thing with me. Crap. Oh, there we go. I got Vest to sign the pinup that came in the Spectacular Spider-Man anniversary issue that he did. Spider-Man, you know, being dragged along by Hobgoblin. You know, it was just a beautiful vest piece. I got him to sign that at the last Heroes. And then I'm going through and I'm looking. I'm like, oh, cool. Here's another copy of the book with a pinup. And I open the book and Vest has signed that pinup. And I guess because Vest was friends with Danny Grigsby, the owner of New Quest Comics in Lynchburg. And, anytime I could find stuff that came from New Quest, like this stuff that Tim just got, like, there were Marvel Fanfare issues that Vest drew with the Warriors 3. And Vest is signed, you know, just inside the cover. I found a stack of them today. You know, there was 10 Vest signatures just sitting there. You know,
well, you know, Vest lives in the area. He lives in Abingdon. Yes. Yeah. When he moved here in the 90s, a lot of stuff started popping around. He went to Mountain Empire Comics and signed all of the Last Sandman issue, number 75, for Rob, the guy that owns the shop. I went into Johnson City and I was trying to find Books of Magic number 3, that miniseries came out in 1990. And I found it probably around 90. Why was I married? No, I was married. So like 99, that book came out in 1990. And I go there and I finally find it. I buy it for like $2-3 and I get home and it's signed by Vest and Neil Gaiman. So if you find stuff like that signed by him around here, it's probably because he's in the area and he's signing anything for everybody, you know.
I thought it was great. I never got to go to any of his store signings, and I thought it was great to finally kind of meet him face to face. And be like, we heard your name.
You need to say good night to somebody?
Yeah, I do need to go. So
I'll
see you guys later. It was fun.
All right.
Later, guys.
As always, man, thanks for coming out and hanging out with us, man.
Yeah.
Sure. Even though you're my mortal enemy, you got a decent side once in a while.
He's got that Lex Luthor look, you know. Yeah.
All I need is my red wig to disguise myself.
There you go.
So I'll see you guys later.
Later,
All
man.
right, man. Have a good night. I'll holler at you.
Hello.
And then there were 3.
But there's a theater in Abingdon, and sometimes work would have me in Marion, and I just go on down and go ahead and see a movie or something in the theater at Abingdon. And it was nothing for me to pop up there and see Charles Vest walking out at the theater by himself. You know, like you just pop in to see a movie and he'd be leaving. And I'm like, there goes Vest, you know.
Yeah.
So,
It's nice when you can actually catch up with somebody, because I tell you, it's the man, his fantasy work is just, you know, it's revered. You know, is how good some of that stuff is. And, you know, I mean, he did obviously he wasn't a prolific comic artist, but the stuff he did, you know, the Web of Spider-Man 1 cover, you know, the Amazing Spider-Man, you know, Hobgoblin cover, you know, there's just so much stuff that he did that is like seared into people's brains, you know.
well, around
like,
here, yeah. Well, I work beside the Southwest Virginia Community College, and there is a brick sculpture that takes up the wall that he designed for him. His design work is all over the place around the Barter Theater in Abingdon. It's in colleges around here. He does posters for little plays and stuff. I mean, the guy's prolific, but when I met him in 1990 at Mountain Empire Comics, I said something. He's sitting there. We're in a comic book shop. He starts sketching out a Sandman while he's talking to everybody. And I say something about it, him being a comic book artist, because he talks about the studio that he was a part of in the late 70s with Mike Kaluta, Walt Simonson. I went, man, that's a great group of comic book artists to be around. He stops in front of everybody. I'm like 17 or 18. And he looks at me and he's like, I am not a comic book artist. I'm a fantasy illustrator. Know the difference.
Oh, wow.
I'm like a young kid still with my mullet. This is when I would still get into fights, because I don't think I had little man syndrome. I just had a little short fuse. And I'm sitting here like, am I going to beat Charles Vest's ass tonight? You know, I'm like, I didn't have the words, you know, I just had the feeling.
Burned you in front of the whole crowd.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm like 110 pounds with a mullet, like I'm going to kill a man, you know.
But you know, that is like Kaluta, you know, I mean, just like the name dropping there alone, those 3 artists alone. I mean, God, how do you, I mean, to me, obviously, I never got to meet Joe Kubert, which Joe Kubert is like, that he is my all-time favorite. Something about his facial expressions and stuff, especially Sergeant Rock and a lot of his war stuff. I do have a couple of his signatures, but I was never able to obtain.
Oh, I hate these freezing.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
All right.
You were never able to obtain?
I managed to get a couple. Was never able to obtain a signature from him personally. And I think that's one of the biggest, I don't know, just kind of regrets for somebody that loves his work so much, because even now I find myself just kind of habit buying it. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, I know I've got this, but, you know, I love the piece so much, I'm just going to buy it again and again. You know, it's like every time you see it. And I've started collecting like all of the old Sergeant Rock stuff. And, you know, I'm going into some of the Western stuff that he did. And,
you need to get into Tor. You need to get his Tor stuff. TOR.
Yeah, see, I've got a couple of that. I was trying to decide if I wanted to get the hardcover on that, but now I started buying some of the individual issues. I
got a book over here where he did a Commandy story. That blew my mind. Really? Yeah.
Like, it's something about his, just, I don't know, like the emotion that he has in his facial expressions is just, it is unbeatable to me for some reason. I guess he's just the artist that does it for me, you know, and his sons, both of those. Yeah, I need to find that.
Yeah.
I've got it like the complete Hawkman run, you know.
That's awesome.
It's that guy. And like I say, his sons, you know, I'd love to see them do some more work. One, I want to say it's Andy that tends to resemble a lot of his father's work a little bit more, you know. But both of his sons are really good.
Well, Kubert was one of the guys right there with Eisner and Kirby and all those guys that were making up the rules of comics. They figured out the storytelling, the psychology, and all that stuff. And it took me a while to understand Kubert's artwork for me to appreciate it. It took
So
me.
I think he's very underrated.
Yeah, he is.
Compared to the other ones.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know what it is, but it's like you really got to go down the rabbit hole with him, and the more you look at his stuff, the more you start realizing it's not just a guy laying down some sloppy pencils at 1st. I mean, he's very like underrated's got to be the right word, I guess.
It's kind of like Barry Windsor Smith. You don't realize. Like 13-year-old me had no idea Barry Windsor Smith was as brilliant as he is. And now, like 45-year-old me is like, okay, why couldn't I appreciate this when I was younger?
You keep making me want to go to my shelves. No, I think I was Epic Illustrated. There's a cover, like issue 4 or something. There's a cover, and even as a kid, it's like I could never stand how he drew faces. That's the only thing about Smith that turned me off. But the colors, the detail. And it was little things. There's a Life Death Part 2, I don't know, X-Men 186 or something. First page you open up, it looks like it's a Michelangelo, a Renaissance man sketching Storm wrapped up in a sheet sleeping. And if you really slow down and look at that, I'm just like, it blew me away. I've tried to draw that. Granted, I was 12, but I was just like, how does he do this?
I know exactly. It's like a couple of pieces that BWS does. They grab you and don't let go. It's obviously Conan 1. You look at it, and that's kind of like before he kind of discovered himself, and he was doing a lot of his inspiration. You could kind of tell it was like he was kind of channeling a little bit of Neil Adams. And but then you get to the mid 70s, and it's like his work really started to become more self-defined, and he did this like a Conan special. It's the blue cover, and I know the first time I saw that was like, I don't care if I'm overpaying or not, I've got to have this book.
Yeah. Winslow Smith, when he came into the comic book thing, this is when they passed around Kirby stuff. He had to draw like Kirby when he came in.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah. Then somewhere along the line, the big Neil influence stuff, the Neil Adams. I think it was the Kree Scroll World. I mean, we're talking behind the scenes. I don't know. I've just read an interview or two with Winslow Smith. He talked a lot about Kirby, but I remember when everybody was trying to draw like Neil Adams, and I think they were told to. I've heard people say that they'll do that just to get work. They may not have been told to, but the beginning of the 90s was interesting because when everybody was going nuts for McFarlane and those Image guys, George Perez and Barry Winslow Smith, to me, owned the 90s with his Valiant stuff, his Malibu stuff with Rune, and then his tabloid stuff, Archer and Armstrong. Wolverine. I mean, I don't think Winslow Smith properly really went kind of mainstream with people appreciating him until his Weapon X story in Marvel Comics Presents. That's when I heard everybody all of a sudden talking about him. I mean, I'm talking about guys that I was like in school with that I knew collected comics, and I'm just looking at them like, you never said a damn word about them. You talked about Neil Adams. You own a copy of Skate Man. Shut your mouth.
It's funny you guys just brought up Valiant. I thought about Valiant way back when I first kind of got back into the hobby, and I was like, I just forgot to mention there's so many great stuff I thought out of there.
Valiant. I remember like
Magnus the Robot Fighter. For some reason, that hooked me.
Yeah, well, he mentioned Archer and Armstrong, and that was Archer and Armstrong 0 because I was asking Danny like, recommend something new to me. I was kind of, what was I, maybe 15, 16, 17, somewhere in that range there. And he's like, this Archer and Armstrong just came out. It's a company called Valiant. Jim Shooter's involved. You'd probably like it. And I remember reading Archer and Armstrong 0 and just kind of looking at the art and reading it and being like, whoa. And that kind of changed things for me after reading that.
Again, that was another cover I tried to draw. It looks so simple. If anybody doesn't know the cover, it's Archer Archer looks like a Hare Krishna, and he always wanted to fight somebody because he's supposed to be the greatest fighter in the world. Armstrong is like Highlander, but big, and he looks like a wino with his flat cap. You know what I mean? Somebody just walked around LA and saw they're like, we're going to take that wino and this Hare Krishna and we're going to make superheroes out of them. But on the cover, all it is a blue cover, a circle around the two characters, and Archer Armstrong has got Archer and he's running away from bullets, and Archer's trying to fight him. I tried to draw that, and it is a masterpiece. I mean, it looks so simple, but when I'm geeking out on the art, man. But yeah, I mean, when you try to emulate what he does, you're like, this guy is perfect. I mean, how does he do it? You know, his style just, I don't know. I can't figure out how he does it. You know,
it just, I tell you that changed everything, and that gave me. I was heartbroken when Shoot. I don't know the backstory or anything. I know, like I say, Shoot is a hard guy to work for, but I was all in on the Valiant universe.
Oh yeah.
The stories were so good. I thought even, of course, everything up to Unity, and I thought Unity was good, but he left so shortly. Either during Unity or after Unity, they kind of chased him out.
Yeah, Acclaim bought the company and they did a coup, and he went. Yeah, but yeah, Unity, anything. The Jim Shooter years are Valiant to me. It's what I tell people. That's the only stuff you need to get.
Yeah,
from Magnus #0 to Ray #0. That's all you need. Anything in between there.
Which you want to talk about a simple cover that's about perfect. That one right there kind of does it.
It's a Punisher Mike Zeck. They just outlined Punisher. They traced the Punisher Mike Zeck Punisher for the silhouette.
I did not know that.
Yeah. When I saw it, I thought it looked familiar, but I'm just thinking it's just a pose. You know what I mean? Like you just seen the pose before. They admitted it. They just took the Punisher Mike Zeck, and just silhouetted it. Put little pouches on it.
I'm gonna have to pull that out now and see if I totally see it. And now maybe I'll never be able to unsee it. Since you said that,
Yeah, when I saw it, I was like, I was actually thinking more Frank Miller. I was thinking, oh, they're doing the Sin City thing. No, it's a Mike Zeck Punisher. I was like, oh.
That's kind of where, to me, the cover felt kind of Miller inspired. It definitely kind of had that kind of blocky, but, of course, the big red dot in the center.
Mm-hmm.
But,
where'd Daryl go? Did we run him off?
I'm actually looking for Ray #0.
Oh yeah, you can do a Google search and just share it on the screen since you're using StreamYard.
But
I can do it.
I've literally never done that before, so I didn't know that.
Let me see if I can do it. It says I've got the controls here. If that's all right, I mean,
No, go for it. I thought I had it right there in that stack right there, but it's not right there in that stack right there.
See what happens. Oh, it's not Ray 0. What did I go Bloodshot? Where did that come from?
It was the first Bloodshot?
Oh man, come on. Everything's coming up from eBay. Oh, here it is. Somebody's actually put them side by side.
Let's see it.
All right. That's as good as I can get it here. We're coming. Is it doing it?
I'm not seeing anything yet.
There you go.
There it is. That's this Punisher, and that's the silhouette they took. They admitted it.
Wow.
Oh, my God. I will never be able to unsee that again.
Wow.
Like I said, I recognized it, but I thought it was just like a generic pose, and where they went with the blacks and the red instead of the black and white. I'm like, they're doing a Miller, It was a Zeck, I was smelling crap. I just didn't know what kind of crap I was.
Well, it's, swiping is all the rage now. I hear all the kiddies are doing it. So, I mean, it,
okay, did it stop the screen sharing? Did it stop?
Oh, I just took it off of there.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Mm-hmm. It comes onto mine, and it's down below where everybody's images are. Then I just put it up in there.
Cool. Awesome.
But man.
Yeah, I loved that Ray #0 when it came out. I absolutely loved it. I was like, this gives me a jumping off point. I know everything that's going to happen. I'm like, I'm good. Because when Shooter left, I knew that was, to me, he did the new universe, and that was the blueprint for Valiant, the way he did it. And plus, he still had them draw on the books like Gold Key.
Right.
And then when he went to Defiant, I love the Defiant stuff. That's such underrated stuff. It was not
Dark. What was it? Dark Tower and Warriors of Dark Dominion and Warriors of Plasm, right?
There you go. Dark Dominion is a Steve Ditko creation. It gets in. It's freaking awesome, man. I mean, I love.
Yep.
Yeah, the Dark Dominion was my book.
I had the Plasm trading cards, man. Where they were doing the comic / trading card thing, which I thought was actually pretty cool.
I still like the trading cards. So, I mean, that goes back to me when I was in the baseball cards all the time, which I still love baseball cards. So when they put the collaboration together, I love it.
That's why
that's what some of the Skybox cards is still in box.
There you go. Well, Warriors of Plasm.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, there's a promotional thing where you had to get the trading cards and put them together. 9 cards a page to make a comic book page.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I found this at a flea market at Happy's. And when I lived in Vinton back in 2009, yeah, I found this for like maybe $2 or $3. I couldn't believe it completed. Somebody already done it. But the Warriors of Plasm, I had to buy the box and find this separate and put it together myself, which was a pain.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that is cool.
Here somewhere.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Oh, and they're good. They've never been printed. They've never been reprinted. You know.
Yeah. Now you've given me something I need to actually look for. You know, that's I don't know. Like I say, they people can fuss about when he's supposed to be at Big Lick. Big Lick is still on. I'm going to be set up to sell at Big Lick, but I tell you, Jim Shooter is supposed to be a guest there, and
he has a handler. Go ahead.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
I was because I was like, as a vendor, I might be able to get to spend a little bit of time talking to him. But yeah, if you say he's got a handler, that's going to be a little bit.
That's why I didn't get anything signed by him. I was ready to talk a little bit while he was doing it. He may have done it, but he had a handler right behind him at Heroes Con. You know, and I talked to him for a minute, but the handler kind of pops in there a little bit and tells him he's busy or something. You know.
Oh, that was me with Tim Sale at Heroes Con.
Tim Sale, yeah.
I go up there and I go get a Batman comic signed. I have one book I want to get signed. There's a guy in front of me with a wheelbarrow full of stuff, a wagon, not a wheelbarrow, wagon. And the lady looks at me and she goes, "I'm sorry, the line is cut off here."
Yeah.
Really, I just let me get the one book, and his 80 books can wait.
I got to get some stuff signed by Tim Sale, but it blew my mind when he was there for some other year that I went. Mm-hmm. And it blew my mind that he had like 2 or 3 people with him. They were all telling us that he's doing a commission, and it blows my mind how he can ignore you. Like he can focus and just ignore you and not feel bad about it. I mean, that's an interesting mindset.
I see so many artists doing that. It's like he signs between this time and this time, and the rest of the time you walk up there.
This popped in my head there, William. They just started a group on Facebook called The Art of Charles Vest, and Charles Vest comments on there. Everything I've talked about, the pictures are on there. People post The Art of Charles Vest on Facebook. Yeah,
I'll have to check that out. Artists. Now that we're going down that rabbit hole, what is who? Like, I know mine, and I will share.
Oh crap!
This guy was a prick, or this guy was something else. But like the artist experience, where like this artist looked or did or acted a certain way that just caught you so off guard. That's all you could pay attention to. Is there an experience that either of you have had like that? I know mine, and I'll throw it out there now, and I'll explain. Eric Larson. Just watching Eric Larson draw took me so off guard. I had to just sit there and stop and watch him draw for a while. Because he did the upside down hand thing.
Well, let's hold up there. You froze up. You're asking, did we see an artist drawn that put us, reacted really weird?
Yeah, like the experience in meeting him, and I'm not talking like this guy was a jerk or this guy was something else, but like just something that did just caught you totally off guard. Like I was not prepared for this from him, and with me again, it was Eric Larson. Just the way he drew. I was not ready for that, just kind of, and I sat there and I had to watch him draw for about 5. He was drawing a Venom, and all I could do was just sit there and watch him draw for a few minutes. And then it's like, yeah, can you sign a book? That'd be awesome.
I kind of get what you're coming with the Art Larson, because I saw him draw, but I was about to walk up to him and I was wondering why he didn't have a line at Heroes Con. This is probably 2 or 3 years ago, but he just had this vibe about him that I did not want to be around him. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't come, you know, he wasn't rude to me or anything, but I just felt like this weird crazy come off him. Maybe he gets manic when he draws and that's his energy. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I mean, I walked up to, I'm a social worker. I read people pretty good after 25 years, and there was just bells and whistles of don't go over there. And it could have just been the energy that he gets when he draws. You know what I mean? Like he gets that little kid energy when he, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but there was, I get
like,
what you're saying. Yeah.
it was the upside down hand thing, you know, and it just fascinated. I think now, granted, his little protest issue of Savage Dragon that he did when they tried to censor him,
It was stupid.
that kind of, yeah, it turned me off. You know, it's like, okay, I appreciate your past, but moving forward, I just don't think I need you in my life anymore. You know,
You broke up with him.
yeah, you know, it's not you, it's me, you know. But like that protest, I was talking with the owner of the place down in Asheville called Comic Conspiracy, and he's like, well, did you hear about it? And he showed it to me, and I felt like that scene in Braveheart when he finds out that Robert the Bruce is the one that just betrayed him. That's how I felt, because I was such a huge, I liked Eric Larson's Spider-Man better than I liked McFarlane's. You know, that's how I felt about Larson.
It's funny. I agree.
And
I'm not a fan of
his,
McFarlane.
like,
There you go.
his protest, you know, that just everything that a human being shouldn't be doing or thinking he was doing in an issue of Savage Dragon.
It felt
You
like
know.
it was a cry for attention than he was invested in something he believed. You know, it's his book. He can do what he wants. I think we all agree on that. But
Absolutely.
what you're saying is what he didn't consider. There's too much of this sweeping away the fans that have stuck by with you and trying to get new fans in. And that's a big mistake. And I'm not going to get the personal stuff. I haven't supported you, but I've supported your book, and I've been responsible for a lot of people checking your stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Mark Waid. You know, it's
Yeah.
I mean, Mark Waid is another one of those guys where it's just like, okay, you know,
I'm turning off my mic. Go ahead. I'm just going to turn off my mic.
it's very much a you do you thing. You know, it's like I met him at one of the VA Comic Cons in Richmond, and it was a great experience. You know, I got him to sign my Kingdom Come, all 4 issues. And then just shortly after that, it was just like, okay, wow, this guy has he's become like a destroyer now. He wants to be like Galactus, the Eater of Worlds, but basically with any creator that doesn't share his opinion.
If you want to pick up what happened to Mark, well, it's not that anything happened to Mark Waid. The real Mark Waid started coming out when he started getting his money. And I'm sorry. I'm ready to go on a rant. Yeah, is it okay? Or I didn't want to. Okay. He came out with it's not that Mark Waid changed. We're seeing what he always has been. If you go back to Superman Birthright, I hated that book. Like, I was like, what is he doing? Then he came out with his Legion of Superheroes, and I'm like, what are you doing? And it like predicted how whatever, I don't want to say the people's names, but if you go back and read that, it's an SJW book in the 2000s.
Okay. Yeah.
Don't trust anybody over 30, and we're going to do what we want. And all of a sudden the Legion they were morally superior. And I'm like, what is he doing here? You know? And so when he came out and lost his mind with all this stuff that he's done, because I met him and he was great. I got a picture of him like right before all the stuff came out about him. I have a picture with him, you know. I'm like 40 pounds overweight in the picture too, so we look good together, you know. But like, you know, but I you know, after I met him and he was cool, and I was like, come on back to Heroes Con and all this stuff. He's like, yeah, this is comic centric, and then he kind of took off. Again, I had that weird vibe from him. Little did I know that it was going to be that, you know, what he became, you know, for people that know.
Yeah. I tell you, like the modern stuff, I don't know, you know, it's like
he made that. Go ahead.
I try to stay really grounded about what's going on in comics right now. I'm gonna first and foremost, I'm gonna say I don't like there's nothing on the shelves I feel like I need to buy right now because it's not for me. You know, they have gone out of their way to try to prove that they do not need me. I'm, one of the, the sit down and shut up, and, this is for the new audience that may or may not be there. I don't know. I look at it like I look at the Star Wars movies. I've got New Hope, I've got Empire, I've got Return. Then they did the prequel trilogy, and now they've done the new stuff. I don't think I can be that guy that sits there and says, you've ruined the previous experience because you've created this new experience. I'm happy to have the Star Wars memories I have. I don't need the new movies to make me love the old movies more. I don't need new books to make me love my past more. It just sucks that they're taking it in this direction, that, like the New Warriors. I read the synopsis for the New Warriors, and it's like, this is such a joke. They can't be serious.
The New Warriors. I did a video that I privatized as soon as I got home after reading the news, and it would have went viral because I said a lot of things that a lot of other people were saying, but I acted like an idiot in it.
Right.
But go ahead, man. I mean,
no. I mean, I could, like, the synopsis of that. I couldn't. It's like, this is either I almost can't even verbalize what I think about it.
Maybe I can make you feel better, because I can tell you what I've experienced in my microcosm of the internet here in my little world. Maybe I can throw some stuff. And Daryl, I'm jump in here, man, if I'm talking too much here, man. But hey, the thing you're talking about is on everybody's mind. But if you talk about it on YouTube, all of a sudden you're on a side. You can't just talk about it objectively. You know what I mean?
Understood.
So
there's no such thing as
what happens is that it seems like we're adults. We're older. We're adults. We're more mature. We've seen things. That's what we forget. We've done comics a long time, but we're more mature. So people like us, our age and maybe 10 years younger, will say and stuff. What they've done is they've just walked away. They don't get on the internet and can declare war on the comic book industry and make all these videos about how they hate this book, which I think people should do as a review, but not build your whole channel on wasting money, buying bad books, whatever. That's their thing, right? So everything you're saying, you're not alone in it. The problem is that reading the comic book is a very personal experience. It's you in the comic, and that's it.
That's right.
So when these things start happening, you're reading characters where you're in their world. You've escaped. It's like reading and watching a movie. You're there. Yeah. You get to know these characters so much and so well that when they're acting out of character, and you're getting told that you're stupid, or what, you get an ism thrown at you. I don't want to get topical, but we know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the problem. This whole new marketing of attacking the fans because you're over 30. It's still attacking over 30, but they call it all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. So that's kind of what's happened. We've just walked away, and we don't make a big stink. I have a YouTube channel. I've made a big stink before, but those channels are spread out thin. It's not everything, like I said, I acted like an idiot when I saw that New Warrior stuff, where I even said this has got to be a parody. They've got to be trolling us. It's so bad. My problem, and I think maybe this might be the words you're looking for. If not, I'm not going to be offended. I'm not trying to read you mine. Is that we grew up watching comics get integrity. It got validation. It started took a little bit serious with some books. We watched it rise from that stigma. Right. And more people over the years. Neil Gaiman came in with Sandman. We had girls for the first time. Nobody kept girls out of comic book shops. Girls didn't like comics overall. There's always exceptions. I don't want to put an umbrella and say everybody. So we were always wanting them there. You know what I mean? Yeah, it wasn't about keeping them out. It was like, we talk about a comic, they look like we were stupid. Honestly. Mm-hmm. Once you get bit by a dog, you're scared of all dogs. Not all dogs are going to bite you. So what it is, we just have life experience, maturity, and we're not out here to be part of what the kids do with their cancel culture and all this stuff. That generation's got a lot of stuff to work out through. And when they get to be our age, they're going to have a lot of counseling. I'm like, they're working their way through a few things. So we do have a generation gap of what they're interested in. I have a problem when somebody wants to take up for a group when they've never been around them. You know what I mean? I've grown up with black people, and I hate how when you have to talk now, you have to label them. I have friends who happen to be gay. I had friends who came out to me in the 80s. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care. It wasn't. I was just like, okay, thanks for telling me. Now, can we go into the skating rink? You ready? That was the reaction. They just act like, but the younger generation just act like we're all terrible people and stuff, and they want it. For some reason, it's an attention thing. It makes people special, you know. There is a generational gap we have to own, I think, about why are they like this. I just don't like it that they have no life experience and they think it's a big deal. Things and act like it's always been terrible before. It wasn't. So that might help out with you trying to find some words, because I do think it's important to be able to talk about this without people trying to act like you're this or that, you know.
Right.
See, one of my thoughts about this is I feel like this is more with Marvel and DC, but a lot of the independents, some of them are doing some really good things.
You got Tim Truman doing a scout book through crowdfunding or Indiegogo. I don't keep up where everybody's at, right? Is it Scott Peluto that does Lady Death?
Yeah.
I always get his name wrong.
Brian Peluto.
Yeah, he's been doing it for years.
Yeah.
And his stuff gets funded overnight. And he's to me, he is the future of how to get a good comic. You know what I mean? I just wish more people would talk about this and put these guys out there. And my buddy, the guy I talk about down in Independence, Virginia, outside of Galax, he's the one that started showing me all this stuff that's out there that you can crowdfund and get your good books. Tim Truman doing Scout, I found out too late. And didn't get the fun to get on that. Steve Rude is doing a sketchbook now. He hasn't done a sketchbook for 5 years. So every time he meets a goal in money, he adds something to the book.
Nice.
It gets bigger and bigger. Yeah. So there's a lot of great crowdfunding books, not just two people doing them. It's not just
Sync was a really good one by Scout. I think Sync, wasn't that done by Scout?
Who, Tim Truman?
Sync. It's the name of the comic. It's called Sync.
Oh, I don't know.
In my mind, I'm thinking that was Scout, I think, but that was a really good book, really like a horror book, and I thought that was really good.
We might be talking about another book. The Scout that I know about is about an Apache Indian.
Yeah. But I'm saying the book called Sync. I was thinking it was made by the same company.
Oh, company. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, there's good books out there, but now we really have to dig to find them. You know what I mean? And you got to have a lot of patience, and you got to be willing to put up more money up front. When we're from that generation of comics started out at 35, 40 cents, and we were like outraged when they were $1.95. You know,
I think he puts out some good books.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've just gotten to the point right now where I'm like, you know what? If this is what, for lack of a better term, the kiddies want,
they don't want it. That's just it.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
And like, you know, Facebook groups and all of that will drive you freaking nuts, because it's like the one or two people that will get on and just immediately start lambasting you if you
not jock.
This is just a comic tribe. This is just one of the honest stories. So it's a really good story, actually. It's very
awesome. Awesome.
Now I know what you're talking about. It's really sad to see kind of where it's gone, and like I said, I just don't need it, man. I will go digging through a box of, you know, give me it's a
froze up.
There we go. I'm back.
Yeah.
He sells at conventions. His name is Mario. He's with Mario's Comics, and he summed it up beautifully when he said, "I quit reading comics when they quit putting word balloons on the covers."
Yeah.
And I think, you know what? I'm like, you know what? I think you just defined my collecting style, you know, with that one sentence. Because, you know, some of the Marvel Knight stuff in the early 2000s is really good. I enjoyed some of the earlier Crisis stuff that the DC was doing right up to when Metzler was doing it, or Brad Meltzer. But like this modern stuff, I tried all new, all different. It is not. Oh God, it was horrible. I didn't know what was going on. You know, there was no, you know, the credo of treat every comic like it's somebody else's first. You know, has been thrown out the window. And just like the Naked Gun movie, the parade went over the body, and then just all of this stuff that could happen, it happened. And I don't want to sound negative, but God, I don't know how the industry, like you say, they're catering to people that just aren't there, and it's destroying the people that want to be there.
Well, see, that's what I mean. There's a lot of people, and I've talked to people in real life. All right, I'm not just talking like I got a big picture from looking at the internet and stuff. In real life, people our age and stuff have just walked away. And what I do say is that, comics. I don't understand how these people are in denial that they're not in trouble. They're in trouble. But the other thing is that the hobby is going to survive. We've got comic book conventions, flea markets, your friends you can trade with, stuff you can order on eBay. There's all kinds of ways, and you can now go back. We live at a great time for real, because we can go back 40 to 50 years and get a lot of stuff that's affordable or has been reprinted. Right. We can back up and take chances on those books we heard of. Yep. I mean, glut of the 90s, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but there's like 2 or 3 books I checked out from the 90s that I just wasn't interested in, and they're really good. Marvel Comics have been so bad for 10 years that I want to complete my New Universe set. They're not that bad now. I'm like,
I've got a short box right over there with with New Universe stuff.
Yeah, people always told me, get indies. Marvel and DC are not the beginning and end of comics. They're just the popular ones that keep the comic book shops going. Well, that still plays. If you are passionate about this hobby in comics, they're still there. You just gotta think out of the box on how to get and what to find. Just walk away. Just walk away. I mean, I could put SJW in comics in any video I have and it'll take off. It's happened before it was a thing. I made 3 videos. That's how easy it is to be big if you want to be in the drama. Just put 3 letters and the word comic in any video you make, and it'll either blow up overnight or it's going to be a slow burn, and then people expect it from you all the time. Right. So there's an amount of drama of having bad books, which is fueling the comic book companies. Like, hey, at least they're talking about us. No doubt in my mind.
Yeah, that's the only hope that I have is, regardless, it will stay out. I don't feel like the industry needs my passion for the medium. The industry needs me, looking at kids going, hey, this is great. I just, like the evergreen green quality that has been just taken away. I feel like Spider-Man should be, if my older brother, the oldest brother got to read Spider-Man, I got to read Spider-Man, my nephew got to read Spider-Man, his child should be able to read Spider-Man, and we all kind of have the same experience. That was like that 7 to 10 year writing thing.
Okay, I can actually help here. I can help here a little bit. I'm not trying to fix things, right?
No.
But I just had an interesting. It's wild you're bringing this up now with the way you just went there talking about passing it down. I honestly just had a talk with some people at work about the Beatles. Okay, you follow me? There's been no new Beatles music. Paul McCartney still puts out an album every now and then, whatever, But his grandpa introduced him to the Beatles. His son introduced his son to the Beatles. And this guy's the 4th generation that he was talking about his dad or somebody making him listen to the Beatles. That's how comics could be. They're still there. It's what you have. This was my Spider-Man. Check this out. All you got to do is open a door and have the books available of the good stuff. Comic books, and I'm putting out there overall, I'm going to say 95% of comic books have been so bad for 10 years that if these kids actually sat down and read a good comic book, they can't handle it. They don't know what good is.
Right.
They're starving in it. They're in a desert, crawling along the floor, the desert floor with the sun over them, and they're dying for a drink of water, but they're getting handed a glass of sand, and they're so thirsty they're going to eat that sand because this is new and this is for my generation. Remember when you were a teenager, I come from like the hair bands. I was part of like a little subculture we were making as kids. And that's what and I ended up with a mullet, and I went from listening to Motown and Iggy Pop and David Bowie and garage bands from the 60s where I was listening to Poison by choice.
Yeah.
We all, you know what I mean?
Oh, Skid Row.
Yeah, I got out. Yeah, I had about a 3-year period there I've had to make peace with, thanks to hearing the Violent Femmes on cassette in 1990. It brought me back. Yeah.
Let me just say this: Rat now has a commercial on TV.
Really?
Yeah. It's a guy. It's a Geico commercial, I think. And they said, we really like this house, but we kind of have a rat problem. And Rat is playing upstairs.
I saw that. I use a Roku, and the only commercials I see is on Pluto TV every now and then. That cracks me up.
Yeah. It's like
was it Rat? Hold on, let me think if I got the right band here.
They all look the same.
They were all really pretty.
Yeah.
I dated a girl, and she has my daughter, and she actually hung out with a drummer. It had to have been for Rat. That can't be right. No, Quite Right. The dude from Quite Right.
Here's the thing about Quiet Riot. Their two biggest songs were from a group called Slade.
Yeah. Well, I see. The thing is Slade. I knew about Slade. Last time I saw Slade, where they sang that song, "The Chameleon," Chameleon line, whatever it is. But Slade was in my house because my stepdad worshipped Kiss, and Paul Stanley was a big Slade fan. Yeah,
you got me saying it now, doggone it.
Yeah, that's cool. But that was an interesting time there. But the girl that I was with at the time, I ended up talking. Frankie Bonelli is his name, I think, something like that. But she whipped out this box, and she would go on tour with him, which is one of the reasons I broke up with her. Whenever he was from Pennsylvania down to Florida, she would ride the bus with him with another girl, and she had all these pictures of her with Poison and Rat, anybody like that at that time. And she had a story about Stephen Percy, the singer for Rat, where she was backstage and he was walking around trying to be all cool because he couldn't find his. It was Spinal Tap. He couldn't find his way to the stage. So she said that she got down and she drank from a water fountain, kind of looked at him, and he followed her 10 feet apart, and she ended up walking him to the stage.
Oh my God. This is Spinal Tap.
She had Polaroid pictures and everything. All this was true story. And if we were doing a heavy metal show, I'd tell you about the groupies who I know they have Dave Mustaine's baby running around in a place called Clintwood. I saw it. And
I seen it. I know it exists.
Clintwood is a town that was actually on Jeopardy for having one street light. And my buddy was saying we're going to get backstage at a Guns N' Roses show in Roanoke back in 92 or 3. And
that's the one that didn't start until almost midnight.
Yeah. Blind Melon was playing for him. That's when I knew the world changed. We walked in all in black, and everybody was they're trying to have a mosh pit to Blind Melon. But anyway, we go by to pick up these girls. They're professional groupies is what they were. So we go to their trailer, and Justin goes in the back with one of the girls. One of the other girls isn't coming, and they have a scrapbook right in front of you, on their table. While I'm sitting on the couch, I'm going through the scrapbook. It's them with all these bands. And then right when I get to the part where there was Megadeth, I'm finally really impressed. I'm like, that's Dave Mustaine. As soon as I got to that page, this 4-year-old kid who looked like a midget Dave Mustaine with long brown hair and a blue jean cutoff jacket is just running through the house raising hell. And I'm like,
oh, that's incredible.
Come on, hello, me.
I'm convinced that's his bastard child.
It's
poor
the
Dave.
symphony of destruction
Nowadays,
in the background.
Dave was supposed to be in San Diego last year signing something, and he got too sick to show up.
Yeah, I worry about him. I mean, this is the man that he sang a metal song in French, To l'amour or something like that. I mean, when I heard him singing that song in French, it just blew my mind. I come from the days of Testament and Metallica. Right. I was there when Slayer came out with Rain and Blood, and it scared the hell out of me.
Mm-hmm. I know when Metallica first came out, they scared the hell out of me. I thought they would come to our town and just steal and beat everybody.
I've gotten
to
see them twice, and I saw them on the last time I saw them was I saw them 3 times, but the last time I saw them was Saint Anger tour, and I will not go back. That's the first time I've seen counseling kill a band.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? Yeah, I saw them on a couple of tours too. And gosh, I'm still a fan, even though like the last like 8 albums I don't like.
I you gotta understand. That's what I'm saying. I've got the albums. I can go back to the good stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a double-edged sword. If Metallica hadn't changed over the years, they wouldn't be around.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
they peaked with the Black Album and they knew it. They were like, we made our money. We need to change, stick around. They knew what they were doing. And, you know.
I mean, when I knew they had really changed is on Load, and they put out Mama Said, and I'm like, is this going to be on a country music channel?
Yeah.
When he did Turn the Page,
you know,
I was just like,
don't
what
know.
are you doing, James? You know.
Well, I mean, they always
I
did
think
covers. They were a big cover band too. I mean, they made multiple garage albums.
Garage Days Revisited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually
Yeah, a
like
lot of
that
Misfits.
stuff, but
I mean, they're the reason I found the Misfits. There's no doubt about it. Like I would have heard, I heard a song here and there, but never knew what was going on. I heard Circle Jerks and all this stuff. You know, people were just passing around cassettes and mixed cassettes. And there was always this one band. I didn't know they were the same band, but it ended up being the Misfits. But that Garage Days Revisited, they did, I don't know, 1 or 2 Misfits songs. And finally I knew who they were, you know.
Right.
Tula Mode, that's it. Tula Mode. Yeah.
I was musically confused until we got into the time period where 9 Inch.
Where's that?
Here we
frozen.
go. All right, I was musically
on, Max
confused
Headroom.
until 9 Inch Nails dropped Pretty Hate Machine,
Mhm.
and from there I got away from top 40. That's what made you like discover stuff that wasn't top 40, you know, and then you discover, you know, you start discovering things along the way, and then Pantera, like you never would have heard.
Oh, I love
because
Pantera.
didn't get any airplay. You know, they were self-made, and
Pantera.
go ahead.
Junior and senior year, to make money, I would get chalk pastels, and I would get the metal magazines that you pull the posters out and stuff, right? And I did. I mean, at the time, I was proud of them, but I'm sure they were crappy. But I would do them. I would sell them for $10 a piece. I'm drawing Bret Michaels and stuff, right? This is the epitome of the hairband time. You know what I mean?
Right.
My saving grace is I had I ended up taking a bunch of posters of Guns N' Roses and inadvertently ended up making a big Guns N' Roses cross on my wall. That was my saving grace, you know. But anyway, so I would sell those. But Pantera was, when I saw Pantera come out with Cemetery Gates, I'm like, oh, they stole somebody's name. Pantera was a freaking glam metal band in the 80s. I saw them in the circus magazines and I was drawing them for people. I had no idea it was the same damn band when Cemetery Gates came out. I thought they just stole somebody's name. You know, I was like, wow, these guys are good. I wonder if they know that's, you know.
That is, but you know, that shift right there, you know, we hit kind of a dark period in music. I would say from grunge to nu metal, that little period in between where heavy music didn't really know what it was trying to do. Like you went from hair to grunge, then you had that kind of dark period where it was just, I think everything got like this alternative lump. I don't know. Then of course Korn came out and that shot off in the nu metal direction, and that, you know, of course the radio rock right up into the early 2000s.
Well, like I said, I had all the right influences, and I was listening to the Soup and Sandwich still was great on that day. That's funny. But like I said, I had all the right influences, and I'm going to, and I'm not blaming them. I'm not going to blame the people. I'm going to say why I understand what happened, right? But it was girls, okay? When I started, you know, I had the long hair, but when things happened, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I passed out at a party, and the side of my head got caught on fire. Thus, my mullet was born. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, you want to talk about the decadence of the 80s? I was there, but the thing about it is like when you're a teenager and you're at a skating rink or whatever, and you got like your friends getting ready to set up for a band, you know, they're going to play the skating rink, and everybody's sitting around bored waiting for their thing to get started, and a girl tells you to sit between her legs while she plays with your hair. You're going to have the longest damn mullet you're ever going to have that you can have by the time you're 18. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's what happened. And then you had the way the girls were dressing in the 80s when you're a teen.
Yep.
You know,
Okay, around here we had a lot of Madonnas.
Daryl's in.
We had a lot of Madonnas, and then
Uh-huh.
we had a lot of Boy Georges.
I looked at. Oh, I got you. Yeah, we had a lot of Kelly Bundy. We had a lot of Kelly Bundy and Bobby Browns.
Kelly Bundy.
Kelly Bundy
And-
is
and a few Belinda Carlisles.
I love me some Belinda Carlisle.
Lita Ford. Come on,
Lita.
You know,
Well, I'm talking about how girls dressed and stuff. I mean, they
Yeah.
came out dressed like Kelly Bundy on those Married with Children. I'm reminiscing, man. It was a good
The
time.
funniest thing I ever heard about the Go-Go's was Alex the Seal. You know what I'm talking about? Alex the Seal.
I don't know if I know the story. I've heard they were.
Yeah,
I heard they were.
Lips Are Sealed was called Alex the Seal.
Oh, I got you.
Now, one thing I did want to mention when you're talking about how Pantera, how they changed. How about AC/DC? They were trying to be almost like the Beatles, and then they,
Really?
yeah, at one point, yeah, I saw a documentary. It must be true.
Wow.
You know,
I've just never heard of it. I've seen the video Jailbreak, which was from 74. I remember the album covers growing up.
I think this was like in the late 60s, early 70s when
I can believe
they
it.
were doing that.
Bon Scott was part of a little band. Bon Scott, there's footage of him on some show, and it's black and white. And he's got on a sequence little vest, no shirt underneath, and sequence bell-bottom pants. And he's sitting there singing, doing this little dance.
nice.
Oh gosh, Bon Scott.
I saw, and he's sitting there, and he's just doing this, man, and all this stuff. But I can believe it. Iron Maiden,
Jones.
not Iron Maiden, the Scorpions. You need to go look back at some stuff from the Scorpions from 1973 or 74. It's like they were trying to be Pink Floyd meets Jethro Tull or something. Like they're running across a cliff behind, they're running across a cliff on green grass, and all of a sudden you got some dude singing for them over the music going, and we stood upon the clouds that day as we ran across there. We all hated about it, yeah. And then they go into like this chorus, I was so glad to find them in like 77 singing Sales of Quran, when they still had Uli and stuff. But yeah, when I saw that early Scorpion stuff, I didn't like the Scorpions till I saw them in concert in the 90s. Alice Cooper canceled. They put on a 3.5-hour show for us. And I could see them backstage after 2 hours, and a bunch of them were trying to leave. And the one guy that I like, I can't remember his name, man, but one of the guitar players was going, no. I could hear his German accent. No. And he ran out, and he started playing it and made them all come back out. And that's when I was like, respect.
That's it. I never got to do a lot of concerts. I eventually really got in a small venue like the Boathouse down in Norfolk.
Yeah.
Yes. See, I
have that. Yeah.
Honestly, Billy, after you bought that one at a Garby show,
Yeah.
I was like, darn it! If he hadn't got it, I was gonna get it.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, man, that was one of those books where it's like I passed up on it one time down in Charlotte for like $10. And see, I was looking so forward to Baltimore Comic Con. And does anybody know if Baltimore's canceled this year?
As of now, I haven't heard anything yet.
I haven't heard anything yet, but I'm kind of assuming it is. I haven't heard from my buddy that I go up there and stay at his house and go to. I haven't heard from him. So I'm assuming he usually asks me if I'm coming by now. So
I mean, I think with everything that's been canceled, like, well, that's kind of my last hope for this year is Baltimore.
Well, now you got Halloween weekend, Big Look Comic Con in Roanoke. Like I say, I'm gonna be sitting up there with Bonafide Comics.
I think
sell some stuff.
It said, hey, Mastodon says it's still on.
Oh, there it is.
Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'm just wondering how the artist experience, because last year I was actually pretty disappointed with the exception of Sergio. I was really disappointed with the cancellations at Heroes. And somebody told me he basically throws out blanket invitations, puts them down, and if they don't respond, he keeps them down. If they say no, he takes them off. And it was like 4 or 5 artists that, like Mark Teixeira, he had down, Dave Dorman, which I'd met Dave Dorman the year before, but last year I wanted to get a commission. And Dave Dorman was a no-show, and Teixeira was a no-show 2 years straight.
Yeah, I wanted to meet Teixeira at Heroes, and he didn't show.
That's the whole thing. In
Yeah.
Baltimore, I started looking at their guest list for last year. And I'm like, man, why am I not going to the show? You know, and so this year I was all in on trying to go, and of course, you know, the world fell apart. You know?
I enjoy the Baltimore show. I mean, it's got its own different vibe from Heroes Con. Like, I actually prefer Heroes Con if they could get more vendors, you know.
Right.
But the thing about Baltimore Con is that you have a lot more people traveling from a lot more states who know their stuff. So if you're really going down there looking for stuff, the competition's a little bit more to get through those boxes because they know their stuff better than people down here.
If you want to go to a
that's not an insult. That's not an insult.
If you want to go to a show where no one knows anything, go to San Diego.
Well, apparently there's nothing at San Diego but just long lines and trying to.
I love going to San Diego. I mean, my biggest thing for San Diego is there are so many artists and writers there. And most of the time you just walk right up to them and talk to them. Cool. And that for me is huge. And I love doing that.
I was curious about how it spilled out over into the streets. And I have a feeling I'd be that guy out there walking through the streets because everybody wants to be inside. I'm that guy that kind of looks where the crowd is, and I try to go the other way before they find it. You know what I mean?
They got stuff kind of like all over San Diego.
Yeah,
they had a huge Batman thing last year.
Yeah, when it comes to the comics, I'm a little bit sneaky, and I'm a machine when I go through there. I'll have a stack of books that big in 15 minutes.
Well, honestly, if you go to the comic book side, there's almost no one there.
Well, I saw the guy from Mile High Comics did a video trying to say why he was going to quit going, and that's what he showed. I mean, I didn't know if he cherry picked his shots, but that's what he showed. You know,
I mean, you will find some lines there, but for the most part, it's not. But then again, you'll find like every grail you've ever wanted to see.
See, that's the way I look at it. I feel like San Diego, that's where you've got your Metropolis bringing its 4 copies of Action Comics #1 out for everybody to see.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like that's kind of like, it's like a showcase show. There's no way somebody like me, you know, could go there and even hope to be somewhat profitable, especially with what they're charging. You know, it's selling comics, and it's pretty much that. And then you, of course, the average guy that says, well, on eBay, I can get it for this. Not counting, you know, what you're paying, you know, that's another topic for a different day, you know, just trying to set up a convention.
Here's the thing. How many times you have to be one of two things. You either have to be a big dog, I mean, like your Metropolis, or I think you have to be local. I think it's got to be one of the two. I don't see, I mean, like Mile High going, I can see that. But then again, gosh, I can't buy anything from that website of theirs. Oh my!
That's what I'm saying. If Rosansky can't determine that it's feasible to do it, who can?
What I heard him say is he got upset because they wouldn't help him bring his stuff in. That's what I heard him say. They wouldn't help him bring his stuff in, so he wouldn't do their show.
Interesting.
Oh, man. Well, you know, I'm realizing when I, you know, talking about all this stuff, I act like I'm 60 or 70 years old. Sometimes I'm talking about this, but I kind of like my age now because I remember going to Heroes Con, you know, a few times way back in the day. I mean, that's what I mean. I'm not that old, but it feels like so long ago without it's changed.
We might as well be 80.
That's what I'm getting at. But I remember walking around, and I'm not exaggerating. I know maybe it was a day that I was there because I'd go down on a Sunday, you know. But you'd walk around and you would see 6, 7, 8. If you hit the double digits of cosplayers, it was amazing. Okay. And they made their costumes. They may not have known a lot about comics, but when you see a girl, I've still got a freaking picture I took on a disposable camera of Flash and Scarlet Witch walking around. That girl didn't know anything about comics, but she could tell you everything about Scarlet Witch. And she she cut that bathing suit up so high there that I was sort of like, this guy's going to kill me because anyway, I mean, seriously, I mean, that's what I'm trying to get at. They had it took a lot more guts to cosplay back then.
Yep.
That's what people don't get. It took a lot of guts, and you had to have a passion for it or really want attention, you know. Yeah. But you know, and to see it all kind of blow up and get bigger and bigger, and I really had a problem with a lot of people that were coming into our little comic book world to where I was like, what are you doing here? You don't know why are you even here if you're going to complain, you know, whatever. But what I'm trying to get at is that after seeing it get really big, I'm really enjoying going back to the smaller conventions now, like at Dublin. And a
The
few other
Salem
ones
Vintage
popped
Show.
up. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Really like the Salem show. I mean, I'm really getting to where I like the smaller cons now.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, I still want to go to Heroes Con. I still want to go to Baltimore. But if I really had to pick and I had a group of people, I'm like, let's just go down to the Salem show, man. We'll be in and out in a couple hours, and you never know what you're going to find. Does that make sense?
You know,
Yeah.
it does, because I tell you, I went, like, it was like when I reconnected back with comics again. It was I went to Heroes, obviously, just for a day, and there was this chick, and her cosplay was amazing. It was like she was an angel, but like every 5 freaking minutes, she would stop and spread her wings.
I know
so people would
exactly who
take
you're
pictures.
talking about. Yeah, I know
Dude,
exactly who you're talking about.
It got so freaking bad. I was like, you know, I'm about to recreate that scene from like the Mutant Massacre. If this happens one more, because all I wanted to do was pass, but like it seemed like the moment I would be able to pass, the wings would spread.
Yeah,
You know,
and and people don't want to. There's a whole conversation here. People get mad about if you bring it out. Like they really seem to take it personally when you talk about it objectively.
Yeah.
There are people that are there for no more reason to have their picture taken, and there's nothing wrong with that.
right?
But go to your corner and do it. Here's your
People
space.
always
They have
ask
that whole space. You can go do that. You know.
Yeah, people always say, "Hey, do you dress up when you go to the cons?" Like, no, I don't want to like to have to stop every 2 seconds and take a picture.
If I'm trying to go see Jeff Darrow and I've got a whole bunch of cosplayers right in the middle of the aisle blocking traffic for me to get over there, there's a problem. You know,
See, that's the thing. If I'm paying $500 for a table to try to sell stuff to make my money back, and I've got Nightcrawler dangling upside down off the end of my table, we've got a problem.
We've gone to the same cons because I've got a picture of that Nightcrawler scrunched down with his hand on my thigh, and I'm like, you know. But anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, the worst is this year there was a Psylocke and this gigantic Adam's apple here. It's like, dude.
Oh yeah,
I know who you're talking about. I remember that. Yeah.
And like a couple years ago, there was this Wonder Woman walking by, and my friend Josh, who was here last week, and I was like, dude, is this guy with a big hairy belly dressed up as Wonder Woman? It cracked me up. I was like, dude, you see him? I look around and Josh didn't see him. He had gone somewhere else. I was so mad at Josh.
There was one of the VA Comic Cons. I'll tell you, like he said, it's a very fine line, because I respect what they do. And some of these people, man, the hours they put into their costume, they don't go out and buy leggings. They make their leggings.
Yeah.
You know, it's some people out there that are really invested in this craft, and I give them all the respect in the world. But like he says, you know, kind of like at Heroes, you see a lot of people going outside on the steps and everything, and they're doing the little photo shoots outside, and you know, I'm fine with that, and it's cool to see them walk by, but don't use like the exhibit area or the sales floor as your personal, this is where I'm going to just, you know, do everything. And sometimes people ask for pictures at a bad time, and, you know, that's understandable, and you don't want to be the jerk. But I've seen some cosplay just kind of go over the top. There was a Doctor Who Dalek at one of the shows where if I think I heard that freaking sound one more time, you know, it was literally going to drive me crazy.
This is why I feel like I could talk about cosplay and stuff. I did it.
There you go.
All right, not the best picture, but you know, I don't have time to find the good ones. But this is why I think I could talk about cosplay. I was on the inside of it. There was an etiquette. Right. You are aware of things. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, so everything that they're talking about, these fine. That's why I would get extra upset about it, because I've done it. You know what I mean? And you do know, and they act like they don't. They act, you know, there's just their attitude about it. And it's died down a whole lot. It was really bad for 2 or 3 years there, and I think it's leveled out finally. So,
right.
Yeah. One thing about San Diego, I will say, all those cosplayers are outside. There are very few of them you'll see in the main hall unless they're actually walking around and looking for stuff.
Well, I mean, I think it's a great thing for people to do. It's just
I think it adds to the cons.
Yeah, I also found my picture of me with Mike Zeck and Bob Hall and Ron Mars. I started going through there, and I'm like, just stick with your mission, Tim. Don't start name dropping your pictures. You know,
No, that's Deadpool and Harley Quinn.
I'm sick of
Mighty
seeing
Mo-
those. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
You will never be sick of Harley Quinn or else.
But another thing that's irritating the crap out of me are the God, this sounds really bad, but like the hyper attractive females that think like, putting on a turtle shell helmet and a bikini top and they can go around calling themselves Bowser. You know what I'm saying?
Hit the next one, Daryl. Where it says no offense, Howler.
Yeah, I was about to post that one too.
It probably, I mean, I can tell. Am I still up?
Oh.
I thought I stopped. Oh, you shared it. Okay.
Oh, I thought you said you had another one there. Yeah, and followed by there you go.
That's hilarious.
But it's like there's this weird subgroup, and of course, that's the other thing that kind of gets me. It's like, there was a group of people that made it tough for me to be allowed to go to a comic shop. And we had this conversation on a road trip one time about the guys, like somebody will post a picture, say, of a J. Scott Campbell cover. And the first few comments were, hey, that's awesome. Oh, wow, it looks great. But then you've got the one dude who posts something like yummy, about this piece of art. And it's like those guys are like the guys that take it to this cringe, creepy level. I think we can all attract.
You weren't supposed to read my comments.
Yeah, but and see, that's the thing about like certain cosplayers. It's like, are you doing the bikini top with the turtle shell for the yummy crowd, or what is your goal in doing this other than getting noticed?
Honestly,
the Red Sonjas.
I mean, my thing is, I think it's a culture in of itself. Hey, Howler, do you mean post that?
If you think I'm trying to find that Nightcrawler he had me thinking about.
Oh, you just took it down.
Oh no, okay. Let me get something back up here for you if you want to see it. Yeah, let me jump up here.
To me, I mean, if they have a passion for it, who am I to say don't do it? I mean, I 100% agree. It has to be done right. I mean, just like Comic-Con etiquette. I did a podcast on this or a video on this. I was like, rule number 1: take a shower before you come to the con. Like, come on. Like, I cannot stand getting ready to try to look at a book and you got some dude with like pig pen wavy lines going off of them.
The swamp.
Swamp hate
sometimes.
But I mean,
Facebook has a new format now. I can't maneuver on my laptop. Sorry.
Yeah, Facebook is always doing.
Yeah, they change it like every year at least.
But the hygiene thing, I mean, that's always been a thing.
Yeah.
Amongst anything. And what's bad is when it comes to stuff like Pokemon, Magic cards, D&D, anything like this, where they're, it just seems like that's where not everybody's like that, but they seem to find each other. Then you have a mixed funk. And when you smell it for the 50th time, yes, you are finally going to say something. That's what gets me. We're not talking about an incident here, an incident there. I can go back 25 years, man. I can be like, no.
It's nothing new. It's like a start, like, because I did the Magic thing for the longest time. I enjoy it, I like the fact that, on Arena now, I can actually play online and not have to worry about setting aside this block of time to play some Magic. But yeah, I would walk into Star City Games sometimes. It's like, man, it smells like a gym in here. It's like that's the only, like, you go into your gym in high school and that smell the second I say it, what it smelled like. Yeah, that's what it would smell like in there, and it's just like, and that's just from like 100 people.
In rotting plastic. That's
and I don't know.
Yeah, I just think there's definite etiquette it shows that people just kind of ignore. Yeah.
Is that the narcissism coming out though? And because I do feel like as we maybe it is, maybe it's not, but I do feel like narcissism is becoming more and more prevalent as people become more self-oriented.
It's everybody being able to find a way. I feel like they're on their own television show with social media. It's creating an apathy. I worked 5 years. I worked with kids for 5 years before I went back to intellectually delayed. And I can't really put my finger on it, but I saw the difference. Everybody thinks they're Harry Potter in their own story. I mean, we everybody's still egocentric. We all kind of think about our life and we're doing this, but we're kind of grounded knowing we're not alone. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And now it's kind of turned around where you're seeing everything through this. You think you are Harry Potter in your story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I totally get, because I'm fascinated by the fact like we would hold up cigarette lighters at shows. You know, and now people can't seem to go to a live concert without watching the concert through their phone.
Again, some of that's our age. You know what I mean? Some of that is our age. I feel like I can tell when things are from a different era, and it's just changed because it's a new era. I mean, it's hard and it can be painful, but basically they're still doing the same thing. We held up the cigarette lighters. They just have something that won't burn them, and it's convenient. Everybody's got one. I get it. But they won't watch
they're watching the concert.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Now they watch the concert, and that's how they view the world. Everything like this.
Oh, honestly, I can't go to the movie theater now because I can't stand trying to look at a movie and right down below me I see someone on the phone, texting and something. Like I can't help but not see this phone down here.
What blew me away is when that first started, you'd have somebody. First, it was somebody being polite. People used to say to other people, can you please put that out? And then it turned into, I didn't pay money to come watch you on the phone. And now it's like nobody says anything. I mean, I don't know. I'm just thinking about that time that the girl was still, there was a game that girls would play. They would move around the theater, get in the seats, and they would sit there and they would see how many people they could steal popcorn from without getting caught. And I turned around and I was just looking at the girl like this. And she's like 17. I didn't know what to say to her, but I still had a dirty look. I was just looking at her and I was like, my popcorn good? She's like, it's just a game. It's just a game.
You know what that means?
You pay to go to a movie to...
It's getting pretty good when you freeze up. You're like, you know what that means? And it's like... You're making the comments that leaves everybody hanging. It's working for you.
I mean, my favorite is when it's like Max Headroom.
I said the next words out of my mouth were, now you have to reach to the bottom of the bucket.
All right, man. Gentlemen, it is that time.
Yeah.
I've had a great time.
Yeah, I'm noticing right now we have gone for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that too.
I think
we got to plan it for basically an hour, but I appreciate you guys coming on as usual. Billy, thanks so much. Howler, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence.
It's fantastic being able to shoot the crap with you. So
yeah,
I appreciate it, man. I had a good time, man. It was awesome. Yeah.
Hey, if you ever want to come back, don't be shy.
Yeah, cool, man. Cool.
Yeah, drop me a note. I mean, I'm not shy. I'll drop anybody a note.
Cool.
And this podcast, I think, has been like 3 years in the making because we talked about it a few years ago.
Did I freeze up? Was that you? Did I freeze up or did you guys?
You just froze up for a second.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I say, it's been like 3 years or so. We talked about doing a podcast.
Has it really been that long? Man,
I think so. It's been. I'm pretty sure I was still training martial arts then. I think.
That's true. Okay.
And that was in about 2016, 17. So it might have been longer than that. I don't know.
Well, I'm getting married June 8th, so it's going to be a little unpredictable what I do and don't do. But yeah, I'd definitely like to jump out, man. So yeah.
Congratulations on that, man. I'll tell you,
man. Yeah, appreciate that.
Better you than me.
Oh no, man. You know what? I've got a good one, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And I always make the assumption that everybody else is going to be that lucky as well.
There you go.
So, hey, look, man, I've got 60,000 comic books sitting down here right now, and she is not. I was working part-time at a comic shop when she met me. She knew what I was.
That's awesome.
And has not tried even one bit to change me, and I do not think I'd ever do any better. So I wish you, Howler, that much luck and fun and joy in your future endeavors in your marriage and everything.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good luck, man. Congratulations. Yes.
Thanks, man. Awesome. Appreciate it.
I got to post this right here. This is great.
It's just
Ricky D, the hopeless bachelor. But anyway, Howlermouse, I got your link below to your YouTube channel. Everybody, definitely check them out. Billy, I've got nothing down below for you because
I'm just a guy. I'll start doing content sometimes. The content creation, it definitely takes a certain, I watch some of Howler's videos and it amazes me what he's able to do just sitting there staring at something by himself. And it takes a little bit of work to get that comfortable being by. It's one thing to be with you guys, kind of talking and chatting and everything. It's another thing to be there all by yourself.
I only have 10 videos I think are worth watching over 10 years. That's it.
Nah, you got a couple that I've enjoyed.
One day I will do one too. That's worth watching.
You wax nostalgic sometimes, and it definitely, sometimes it's like, yeah, that I remember that and I know that. So yeah, you definitely hit on a couple things there from time to time. So don't think that nobody's paying attention to your stuff.
Am I doing the Sunday thing tomorrow? I'm not sure because what I put off at 9, I've still got to go do now. So we'll see if I wake up. Hit that bell. Hit the bell when you sub, Scott. I appreciate that, man. Scott Neely is regular, man. I mean, when I do my live shows, I've got some regulars. And I mean, I honestly appreciate every one of them. So I feel like I can joke sometimes, But yeah,
that's the same with me. I used to have about 4 or 5 regulars, and not a single one of them showed up tonight. I'm only joking. They all come to see you guys.
Nah.
But Josh also had his link below to his Instagram. If you guys want to find some cool art, he does some great stuff. I really like his work too. Look at him on Instagram at Balloon82.
He is working on a Peter Porker piece for me right now. I am dying for him to finish. It is my Spider Ham versus Ben Ham. Look on his Instagram. He's kind of got a little progress going on it. But his commission work is incredible.
Awesome.
Nice. All right, guys. Anything else?
No, I appreciate it. Had a good time. Hope everybody has a good Memorial Day weekend.
Yes, sir. I tried Memorial Day. I got 600 miles of racing to watch tomorrow.
Nice.
Thank both of you for the excellent conversation and opportunity. And I'm always available to do it again. And Howler, I'll definitely see you around, man.
Yeah, hit me up on Facebook. I'm friends with Daryl there. So, yeah.
Next Saturday, we do have our Star Wars movie ranking. Looking forward to that, even though I think I have a pretty good idea of where these are going to be ranked. But still, it'll be fun to rank some Star Wars movies. So that's all we got. And you guys have an incredible day.
Bye, y'all.